Test, 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 test. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. I'll be starting off in just a second, just checking my audios. I really gotta get new headphones. I'm having a weird issue with my headphones where it just like forces the stereo signal to mono, and so it sounds like way quieter than it actually is. But I think I fixed it for now. I'm gonna have to get new ones later. I'm actually hoping to talk about sound at some point this evening, if the time permits. We're gonna talk about some speed of sound stuff too. But yeah. Hey there, Dr. Strangle. How's it going? Hi, Saria. Hope you guys have had a wonderful week. How's your weekend going? Dr. Strangle says ready to learn. Well, hopefully I'll be able to share some knowledge. But honestly, like with your knowledge of the scaling and stuff at this point, it'll probably be stuff that you're familiar with, and like I've learned from you as well, so you might be able to contribute to my understanding here. We're just going to be wrapping up our discussion of the light speed stuff. Just a couple of odds and ends. Mostly talking about the heavenly transfer and then the light Fang, and then also going over a few random miscellaneous things from Boruto, if I can find my notes for that. Nothing super serious or whatever. It's just kind of like, I guess it's like my version of a reductio ad absurdum, sort of, where I'm like, well, if this is true, then that is also true, and I think that is silly, so I don't think the first thing is true, if that makes sense. So just pointing out some things that I noticed from Boruto. And then, so I think either tonight or next week, I'm going to start responding to some videos from the YouTuber Key, I think is their name. Yep, Key over here. This was recommended to me, I think, by Ryomen Yagami. Please let me know if that's correct, or maybe it was FOD, I forget. But thank you to whoever recommended this. Wow, one of those thumbnails is not super friendly. Okay, let's go ahead and hide that. See if I can blur that out afterwards. But at any rate, that threw me out for a second. Goddamn. Anyway, this channel, I like this channel. I have seen quite a few videos from this individual. As usual, I wind up disagreeing with a lot of what he has to say. And he has made some of the arguments that I've heard other people make before that I also disagree with. But in general, I think he puts like a lot of effort into accumulating his data. He has everything presented succinctly. He does a pretty good job of citing his sources and all that. So I kind of like want to give a shout out and a thumbs up for like effort at the very least, even if I disagree. And then I think a lot of the points that kind of get brought up in this particular video are relevant to our discussion, and so probably towards the end of the evening, if there's time, I'll start going over some of this stuff. I definitely want to talk about some of his multiversal stuff. It's a lot of what we talked about with Noodle's video before, but there's some new stuff and some interesting arguments in there that I'd like to try to address, and especially since somebody, again, I apologize, I forget who requested this. I think it was Fadi Ismail, but I think we were going to talk about Kaguya at some point anyway, so it's a nice kind of way to step back into that, so should be fun. But yeah, I'll keep my thoughts on that for now as we kind of wrap up the stuff that we were talking about before. Let's see. Ryoman says there's probably more than 100 faster than sound feats in Naruto. Yeah, if you want to share any of them, I'm always happy to go over them. And this is one of those things where it's like, I know people have some pretty strong opinions about it one way or another, and the more data points are on the board, the more stuff we have to review and talk about, the better. So I'm more than happy to consider looking at other things. Just let me know what you think. Dr. Stranko says reaction streams do numbers. Yeah, I think I've been trying to figure out. So like the video on my channel that got the most views was the one where it was called like wall hacks. And it was called like the live stream specifically, which was about multi-continental mud walls. And so I am fascinated by that. I don't think it's a bad video at all, but compared to the ones where I had like all the Miro boards with all the like chart breakdowns and the Pepe Sylvia graphs and all of that shit, it was like, okay, it was fine, you know? And so I'm curious, I really would love to know if it was just like a fluke of the algorithm, or if that one got shared somewhere and it blew up a little bit. But like, yeah, I don't really ever pay close attention to the numbers. As long as like a couple people show up and we have a fun conversation, that's all I really care about. And even then, like, I just have an excuse to whine and complain about stuff, you know? and for several hours when nobody can stop me. That's all I really need. But it's really fascinating. Like that one, I was like, okay, I guess I'll do this. Okay, I guess that went fine. And then that's the one that people wound up responding to. But that was a reaction to one of Noodles' things. So, I guess you're probably correct there. Part of me doesn't like to like anytime that I mention that I'm reacting or responding to somebody in the title, I get a little hesitant because I'm genuinely not trying to start shit, and I also don't like the idea of like using somebody else's name for like attention, so to speak. But then also, if I don't mention, if I'm like somebody on the internet made a Naruto video, and I'm not gonna tell you who it is, but I am gonna talk, that's like weird too. So I never know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just like, I want to talk about this, so fuck it. Hopefully, some people find that entertaining. So I see you have shared some opinions, Saria. Let me do a quick scan through over here. As always, I appreciate all the detail in the conversation. Saria says 3 hours the grind will make the most powerful weapon this world has ever seen with your cat. Cats already rule the world, so you're off to a good start there. I guess now I have a chance to ramble into the void about Zelda. So, I'm super excited, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, but I'm mostly excited because it has a chance to change the hero's aspect, and I really, really hope they do. As it stands now, the hero's aspect is very clearly related to the Zonai race. Other people theorize it's not, but like, we were introduced to the Zonai in this era. Everything revolves around them. Like, it'd be extremely weird as a writing choice to say this guy who has arm patterns similar to Roru the Zonai and looks like he belongs to that tribe isn't a Zonai. Like, I'm sorry, but no, I'm good. Anyway, the reason I want it to be changed is because I just think it's a bad writing choice, and this is coming from someone who sings the praises of this franchise constantly, but this is a bad idea. If the hero construct is the true hero's aspect, and the mural depicting him is just wrong, this would make a lot of sense because we've had similar things happen in the past, like in Wind Waker. In Wind Waker, they believe the hero of time was 12 when he saved the world, hence Wind Waker Link getting the tunic at 12 years old. It's tradition. But we know that Link was 17 as an adult in Ocarina of Time. I hope this helps the case for the hero's aspect with the hero's construct, because if they give Link a Zonai connection, I'm sorry, it gets ridiculous. It's fine for Zelda, but not for Link. Link is a member of the Knights clan, essentially a super soldier through bloodline. He has the spirit of the hero, which Echoes of Wisdom confirmed makes him stronger too. The Master Sword often too, which, by the way, the Master Sword and Link are stronger together. They make each other stronger, and the Master Sword gets stronger on its own the longer it bathes in sacred energy. And sometimes he gets a Triforce piece. All of this is fine, because he's the representation of man. He's the representation of humanity. He is their hope, he's their light. The Zonai are very closely connected to the gods, and I do not want Link's having that connection. And yeah, he already has a godlike connection through Skyward Sword Zelda and Link getting together, but irrelevant. Zelda is mortal at this point. She's a goddess reincarnated as a mortal woman. The Zonai being connected to her makes so much more sense, because Zelda is just intrinsically connected to the gods. If you give Link this connection with the Zonai, it takes away from what makes the trio special. We already saw Link gain godlike power in Majora's Mask, and he earned that power. The fierce deity, according to Aonuma, is the representation of the people's hopes and dreams. Link shouldn't be in the realm of the gods. He doesn't belong, it's why he gives up the full Triforce. Link represents humanity, courage. Zelda represents the goddess and wisdom. Ganondorf represents demons and power, the three virtues of the golden goddesses, or the Triforce. The hero's aspect ruins this for me, because now Link is just like Zelda, and Link is the only character to embody all three virtues of the Triforce and get complete control. It talks to him, true, but he represents humanity, the best of what humanity can be. That's what makes that special. If you connect him to the gods, it lessens that, for me personally anyway. So, I hope that that's the purpose of the construct in Age of Imprisonment. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But side note, the Triforce, being the essence of the Golden Goddesses, deeming Link worthy and actually talking to him, only hits hard when he's humanity's representative. I stand by this. But I also understand that this wouldn't change that movement, because the Zonai are born very late into the timeline. But it means you can't have that moment again in the Wild Era if you try to, because sure, in the era of Myth, it still works, but this doesn't work going from Wild Era's founding forward, because Link is now intrinsically connected to the gods if we go this route. I would rather that the hero that's depicted in the mural be a misremembrance of the hero's construct, because the idea that Link's soul showed up to pilot a mech because he wasn't born in this era is yet sick. I mean, Skyward Sword Link went to the past to fight the incarnation of evil itself against the goddess Hylia's plan, and Fi said he had like a 1% chance of victory, and he still pulled it off. Like, I don't give him a god connection. Just let him be as cool as fuck because he's the hero. Keep it simple. Simple is better. Okay, TED Talk over for realsies this time. There we go. Weird whistle emoji. Yeah, there you go. I had to give respect. I had to give props to that lore essay. Sorry, I'm gonna say this again. You need to start making videos. I mean, obviously, no pressure. I'm not trying to make you feel like nudged in that direction if you don't want to. But you are one of the few people who actually knows this level of stuff about the Legend of Zelda series. That actually made sense to me. Like, I couldn't repeat it, I couldn't really summarize for you because I was like, quote unquote, performing it, right? But it made sense, and you managed to kind of convince me of your position, even though it's still kind of sinking in, if that makes any sense. I bet you would find this, like, other people, especially people who are like Zelda lore heads, would find this really interesting. So, thank you for sharing. I hope you enjoyed my little, like, impromptu performance there. Please feel not pressured, but encouraged to continue creating. If you feel like this is the place you want to do it in Discord or in the stream, that's fine. But understand that this stuff, it'll kind of go away in a way that's not, it doesn't like belong to you, right? I think if you start to put this stuff together in your own channel, in your own way, in addition to sharing the discussion with others, it would be something that people would appreciate. Just letting you know that there's good content there. Anyway, Rioman says, well, with pixel scaling, all you really need is covering a decent amount of distance faster than someone could perceive. You would already be somewhat close to supersonic at least. Yeah, so that is something that I found pretty interesting about Key's video, and we're going to talk about that later when he starts talking about like how the thugs over here Naruto manages to get in front of them before they can see him and all that. So I definitely have some thoughts. I don't agree with his overall conclusion, but I did really enjoy the fact that he was even bringing this stuff up, because I never hear anyone talk about scaling based off of this particular fight. And he said something else about like the sound ninja and the speed of sound, like Dosu or Zaku, I forget, having an attack that was above Sonic, and that was also something that I found interesting. Like, not a whole lot of people talk about that, so I'm curious to talk more about that as well. So yeah. Let's see, I lost my... Oh yeah, that whistle emoji is really fucking weird. What the hell is up with that? That's cursed. Key skills chainsaw meant out of... Okay, well. Again, like... So somebody... Was it you who posted earlier today that you shared with me in chat? This idea of... Key made a video recently, I think earlier today or very recently, where he was arguing that, like, here's an example of how other characters, like, if Naruto people scaled Naruto characters like One Piece characters scale, if Naruto scalers like overhyped Naruto characters the way that Bleach or JJK or whatever people overhype their characters as well, like basically trying to use Naruto as an example to demonstrate how silly the overhyping can be in other verses. And I was like, yeah, I agree, this would be very silly, and I've heard people do this. Also, people do this in the Naruto community all the time. And I, not to be too spicy, but Key's own video on multiversal, on like how strong is Naruto, where he goes into multiversal stuff, I'm like, you're kind of doing the same thing here. It's the same shit we talked about with Noodles being like, well, technically speaking, the Izanagi is a genjutsu that rewrites reality, so that would mean Hanzo is like at least universal because he's rewriting all of reality. I'm like, come on, man. Like, are we really still doing this? This is not verbatim what Key said, of course. But the Izanagi does kind of come up, and then it like rolls into the discussion about the limited Tsukuyomi, and like that old comment about, oh, it's a transportation technique, or Kakashi thinks it's a transportation technique, and it's a reflection of the real world, and everybody calls it a world, so it must be an entire universe, and it contains a starry sky, so that means it's probably at least multi-solar system level, if not multi, like universal, and that means that Madara like created entire universes inside the heads of humans and animals. Like, we're really out here in 2025 repeating unironically the argument that Madara created a multiverse, like entire real physical universes inside the minds of dogs and cats and fish. Like, what the fuck are we doing? And then we're turning around and saying like, oh no, it's other people with their verses that are overplaying things. I'm like, okay. So I'm kind of like tipping or revealing my hand or whatever, but we'll talk about that later. I don't want to start talking shit already. There is some interesting stuff that comes up in here, and I want to start off on like a negative note. And we still got to cover other things first. But yeah. Let's see. Roman says I'm sometimes using his arguments in debates about that. Well, yeah. If you agree with something, or you find that like he is helping you better understand things, like, go for it, man. Like, I genuinely, I think that any of these resources that people find a connection with. See, this is the thing also. If I don't know if it's in this video, but let me see if I can find the other video that he did where there were some really nice comments. Yeah, sorry if this winds up being kind of loud. I'm trying to find... Yeah, this is the one, scaring Naruto like Bleach fanboys that I was talking about. But he did another video about like how strong is the Naruto universe, and he makes a lot of content. Wow, okay. Yeah, exactly. So this one over here, right? It's going to be a little loud probably when I click it, so sorry about that. Oh, no, it's already muted. Okay. So just look in the comment section over here, right? Like, I've seen countless Naruto scaling, but this one is the best of all. Been waiting for this. Naruto versus power scaling has been quite underrated lately. Where's the one? Yeah. Very underrated and downplayed a lot for Hagoromo. And I'm trying to find the exact one that I was looking for, but yeah, here we go. Like this guy over here. Yo, bro, thank you for not downplaying Naruto, right? I feel like I've seen a lot of comments like this where people are like, I'm so glad that we're getting a video like this because I'm so sick and tired of people downplaying Naruto. And I feel like the discussions of both light speed feats and multiversal feats and all that stuff kind of gets wrapped up into this larger debate about Naruto, how Naruto compares to other universes. And it, like, I don't know this firsthand, but I guess it seems like the Naruto verse is getting like shit talked from fans of other franchises. And my guess is that part of that is that fans of other franchises are just saying like, well, Naruto doesn't really scale all that high compared to Dragon Ball, JJK, Bleach, whatever else, and therefore it's bad or whatever. And then we in the Naruto community feel the need to respond to that by saying, well, Naruto's light speed too, he's multiversal too. In my opinion, like, we shouldn't even be entertaining those arguments in the first place, because it doesn't matter. People are always going to talk shit, right? But I also understand if you feel like your series, like, value in the marketplace or whatever, in the popular anime discussion is limited by the power of the verse. I understand why you would want to, if not like inflate the power a little bit, then at least feel like your series is getting well represented. And to have somebody come along and say, hey, don't worry guys, I got you. Like, I got some arguments. It's gonna make the motherfucker shut up. I got proof that Naruto is higher than they think, so let me handle this. Like, I like that narrative. I kind of like that idea quite a bit. But it's a double-edged sword, right? And like, assuming that my own critiques of this stuff are correct, assuming that I'm not misguided, then it's leading to an overall misrepresentation of the series and a misunderstanding of it, which then kind of makes us look goofy in the first place. I'm saying us, obviously it's like not everybody believes the same thing, but you know what I mean? It's like, I get that the sentiment, and I appreciate it, and also I feel like we shouldn't even be entertaining that discussion in the first place, because it doesn't matter. It's like rage baiting, right? And feeding into the rage bait often doesn't really benefit anybody. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I guess it's not really all that important to the overall discussion. It's just, well, no. I think it is. I think, because I'm trying to understand like what people are passionate about and what motivates people to have these discussions and how people get to these conclusions. Like, I think that there are genuinely many people in the community who are sincere, who genuinely like the stuff that they're reading, and who aren't out to deceive or fuck with anybody else. But we still, I'd like to count myself in that group as well. But we still count or like come to very different conclusions, and that always surprises me. And I want to understand that. Like, where is the misunderstanding? Where's the discrepancy coming from? How did we get here? So I hope that I understand it a little bit better over time. Ryoman says he scales Berserk to Outerversal as well. Idea of evil. Oh yeah, so I mean, like, I don't even know how far the Berserk universe goes in scale overall, but I feel like, there's that. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it, but there's definitely a moment that happens in Berserk that I think compares with. Okay, I'm just, I don't want to talk about it in vague terms. I want to be able to actually explain what's happening. So, Berserk spoilers for the next 3 minutes up into chapter, the Ganishka arc, the, whatever that whole arc is with the giant god tree thing, okay? For the next, like, 3 to 5 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go. So, there's this whole sequence where the Skeleton King, whatever his name is, Skull Knight, he has this sword that's made out of all these Baelits, and he clashes with Griffith on the like the summit or the head of Ganishka, who's become sort of like an artificial god hand member, kinda, and turned himself into like this incarnation of demon energy. I don't even know what the proper term for it is, but he's like this massive, powerful creature who's just sort of like walking around, trampling on everything. And it's the combination of that sort of made out of all the Baelits, which are capable of granting wishes and like bringing things into reality and all that, with whatever Griffith is doing up there. I'm forgetting the details, it's kind of hazy, but basically, like, it's the clashing of those two things that then leads to this opening in the fabric of the Terra reality, and leads to all of this like fantasy pouring out from the realms of fantasy and thought and imagination into the real world, and like fundamentally, permanently changing the real world. So things that were pure fable or fantasy, like dragons and ogres and stuff like that, now they are real and they are walking the earth, and the borders between the liminal spaces and all that are just like shattered, and things permanently change. So that is a reality rewriting event, and I couldn't understand why somebody would look at that and be like, okay, so these characters, especially since Griffith isn't necessarily, the idea of evil, or like he's not even necessarily maybe he's the leader of the God Hand, but he might not be the strongest, depending on your views on like Void and stuff like that. But at any rate, the idea that there could still be something higher in power than Griffith, that also makes sense. And so the idea that something in that verse is capable of rewriting the whole universe, especially if like you think what happened there with the rewriting didn't just happen to Earth, it happened like everywhere in the universe, then yeah, I can understand why somebody would look at that and be like, okay, well, this clearly fits the VSB CSAP definition of outerversal or universal or whatever. My problem with that is that when you actually look up the definitions of those things, they usually specify that it is an act of creation or destruction equivalent to destroying or destroying our known universe. So take the energy that it would take to destroy our known universe, and then the character has to do that in a single attack, whether that's an act of creation, act of destruction, something like that. So what Skull Knight is doing is he has this sword, and the sword itself is composed of all of these powerful things that he's like merged and forged together. So he's like accumulated their power, and then that is clashing with something that Griffith and Ganishka are doing or whatnot, and then that causes this cosmic event, like that starts this chain reaction, so to speak, that then changes the world. So if somebody were to come up to me and be like, Skull Knight is universal, or Skull Knight is like his sword is universal, or even Griffith is universal, I have to go back and read the chapters, but I probably disagree, because like there's so much going on there, and there's so many powerful forces that have kind of coalesced to produce this cosmic event. It would kind of be like saying, if you have like 8 wizards that each summon, like move a planet so that the planets are all in alignment, and then you have another wizard that causes like the sun to do a solar flare, and then that solar flare energy passes through all the planets, and then it causes like a portal to open up, and then demons come in from hell or some shit like that, right? Like, would you say that any of those wizards themselves are universal or anything like that? I'm like, no. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm saying that like I feel like in Naruto the same thing happens, right? Where you can kind of semantically twist the definition to make it seem that Skull Knight is universal. But when you look at all of the things together, I mean, I think it's more like he's a part of a chain of causality, and the chain of causality is universal, something like that. I wonder what you would think about that. But anyway, Dr. Strangle says 200% lore capacity. Yeah, I'm gonna need to put some more convolutions in my brain to fit all that lore in there. Sorry, it says One Piece Luffy is 17 septillion times faster than light because of the slow fruit. Yeah, probably. I mean, Key did make an interesting argument about like he thinks that Haku could be the speed of light because as you are close to it, because when you get closer to the speed of light, everything else looks like it's slowing down, and that would be an explanation for why Sasuke and Naruto are actually moving slowly from his perspective. It's not that Haku's perception is getting so much faster, like his brain synapses are like working faster and the chemical signals in his brain are working faster, whatever. It's that he literally is going so fast that Naruto and Sasuke's like perception seems like slower to him because of time dilation. And I do actually like that explanation. I prefer that explanation to something the chemicals in his brain work different, right? It puts more things into perspective. I think it explains things better. The problem that I have with that is it's still not accounting for things like, okay, if Haku is literally moving at the speed like even 99% the speed of light, the Senbon, if he's throwing those and they're being thrown at the speed of light, the amount of kinetic energy behind them should be like, causing massive shockwaves that are just like causing tsunamis and shit like that, right? With the water being right there, it should shatter at the very least, it should vaporize the bridge, right? Like it should just puncture a hole right through the bridge. And if that's not the case, then that means that those Senbon don't have that amount of force behind them, in which case their mass must be extremely tiny for that to work in terms of like that math equation, or they're not actually accelerated to that extent. And so once you start to put all the pieces together, it's like, does the model really fit with this? I don't know. It could also be that we're just overanalyzing the shit, right? Like when I started making these videos, I was like, power scaling really is the best way to understand the manga, because in order to have a power scaling debate with somebody, you're going to need to understand the manga as deeply as you possibly can. You're going to need to know all the facts and figures, blah, blah, blah. So like all of that is going to teach you more about the manga, and it's a great way to understand the source material. And yeah, it's true. Like over the past year or so, I have had to like reread different chapters to make sure I understood them. I've watched some of the movies, I've read some of the novels. It's encouraged me to go deeper and deeper into it, and I'm grateful for that in a way. And also, what I'm feeling these days is that specifically debating, but also power scaling in general, tends to force you to look at the series in a very specific light, and it's actually kind of sad, for lack of a better word. Like, I find myself coming up with theories that I think are cool or fun, and then being like, oh wait, I can't prove that. Oh wait, I don't have enough evidence for that. Oh wait, like I wouldn't win a debate, I get shut down, right? And then discarding them. And like obviously we should, when we're talking to other people about things like this, we should represent things accurately. We shouldn't just come up with like crazy theories that don't have anything to do with anything and pass them off as truth. We shouldn't be dishonest. But at the same time, like we're reading a fucking piece of art. We're reading a comic book. We're like enjoying and celebrating something that is written for fun and entertainment and enjoyment, and there's this very specific paradigm that I find toxic sometimes, where it's like you are the only thoughts that you're allowed to cultivate about this art are those that can be empirically demonstrated and that you can defend in an argument against other people. And I was like, why is the only way that I'm engaging with this piece of art in terms of framing arguments about it? And I'm like, fuck that. Like, it's as long as we're all having fun and we're getting along and we're like teaching each other stuff or even challenging each other, that's totally fine. And there's nothing wrong with the competitive aspect of it either. But it's also important to remember that, there's plenty of room for open interpretation, and sometimes we're just not going to have an objectively correct answer because it is art, and art is allowed to be goofy and quirky. Art is allowed to quote unquote make mistakes. Art is allowed to be inconsistent or not have super clear explanations. So it's entirely possible that even in good faith, we as a community scour every pixel of the Haku fight in the data books and the novels over and over again, and then we just come to the conclusion that Kishimoto didn't like create a super consistent and super transparent power system for Haku. He uses a combination of super fast movement and suggestion and hypnosis and fucking whatever else, you know, like with his ninjutsu, deception. And he somehow makes it seem like he's moving super, super fast. And we just don't know exactly how that works. Maybe he's literally moving at the speed of light, and maybe there's not a good reason for that. Maybe he's not, and maybe there's not a good reason for that either. And there's some nuance to it. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know. The only thing that really bothers me these days is people being shitty to each other or representing things incorrectly and trying to pass it off as fact. I'm not going to get mad at anybody for having a cool theory that I disagree with. I'm only going to get mad if it's like used as part of some like shitty agenda or used as a bullying tool or something like that. Anyway, Dr. Strangle says, when I did my volume 2 or 3 Naruto review, I didn't calc this feat as the substitution jutsu is essentially a body flicker jutsu plus misdirection. Yeah, that makes sense. I would love to hear your thoughts on the substitution jutsu, because I think there's something, I forget where it is, it might be in the bell test, like round 1, where there's an explanation for it that like it lets the ninja move faster than their shadow, and so some people use that to suggest faster than light. I don't hear it come up all that often, and to me that's pretty clearly like, okay, Kakashi is hyping this jutsu up, this isn't like a scientific measurement or whatever, so I didn't feel the need to really address it, but we could talk about it, and if you have thoughts on that, let me know. Yeah, you wanted to know the person's channel, so let me bring it up. They are Key at Von Key, and I think if I just... You said you wanted it in the Discord or in general chat. Okay, so here's that. And I will post it in Discord in a second as well. I'm going to post it in the Naruto channel. Okay. Yep, there we go. Cool. Yeah, and check out his video on, I forget who it was. I think it was, it might have been Ryomen who recommended this video on, where was it? On Haku scaling we could talk about as well. This one over here. I actually think some of the better light speed scaling arguments for Haku, including the time dilation one, are in this video. Haku and Sasuke's light speed explained. So this is actually a really good video. I'm gonna go ahead and post it in the Discord as well and under the Naruto channel. Okay. So with that all being said, let me go back to here. JJK is viewed as below Jiraiya by most people, says Ryomen. Interesting. I debated some people on Zabuza versus Gojo and Sukuna at the same time. Most people who debate power scaling are ego-driven, including me. Griffith is top 2 after Idea of Evil. Yeah, I mean, like, I think... Again, like, I don't want to say categorically that it's like bad to have a competitive debate at all. Obviously, I don't like the toxic stuff where people start going at each other's throats and like calling each other slurs and stuff like that. Like, I don't go in for that. But I mean, I like to imagine how I would engage in certain debates. And at this point, I think I would actually like to have a debate with somebody about Lightspeed or Multiversal, because it's all well and good to have the idea in your head, you know, and to have everything make sense and be logical. But it's like, you know, that phrase, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Not to treat other people as my enemy by any means, but like, I have had that experience before where like I plan and like think things through and think I have all the answers. And that's definitely the wrong link, says Dr. Strangle. The at Von Key one? Really? I'm going to click it now. Go to channel. Oh, what the fuck? Yeah, subscribe to this guy. This guy's much cooler. That's really weird. Okay. Alright, I'm not sure why that is, but that's his channel name, Von Key. Maybe try going to the link of the video itself. Hang on, let me get rid of the time code here. Right. And then I'll just try this. Let me know if that works, Dr. Strangle. Yeah. Griffith is top 2 after Idea of Evil. Yeah, that might make sense. I don't think Guts gets up there, but probably some of the War Demons. Well, I don't know. There's so many. The rest of the God Hand, we don't really have a lot of great power scaling for them. I mean, Void obviously is pretty crazy, but we don't have like Slan is as well, but we don't. I don't know. I don't feel prepared to really to debate it, but I don't feel like there's a whole lot of power scaling info to get from there. They're just kind of like ambiguous, powerful, above and removed characters. Dr. Strangle says the dot in the link was messing up when I clicked the adding back in. Oh, I see. I got you. Okay, sorry about that. It's weird, and then it linked to my channel when I clicked it. I don't know what was up for that. Going back up to Saria's comment, I would like to think some people just feel the series is being misrepresented or represented poorly, even if they go on the higher end of interpretation. I'm similar in that regard. That's fair. Yeah, I think that's part of it, genuinely. Not in that my enjoyment comes from the strength of a series, but I'd rather it be represented well. Like, I don't care that Battle Wiki thinks Captain Marvel is dimensional tiers below Wolverine, whatever. But at the very least, be consistent in your stance and put her on the same level as or stronger than Thor, for example, because she's beat the very person they compare Wolverine to. Yeah, like, for the love of God, like, just demonstrate things correctly, be genuine, and don't, like, use your quote-unquote personal agenda, for lack of a better phrase, to misrepresent the things that other people love. I think that's fair, like a fair request that anybody should be willing to agree to, right? So, I feel you. I don't think that there's genuine malice. I think that there's still misunderstandings, and I think there's still a couple things that come across to me as dishonest, but the genuine motivation underneath that, like, I get it, and I think I understand. I think I do. Rioman says Skull Knight is multi-city block, maybe town level. Well, fiction almost never follows kinetic energy rules accurately. Yeah, that makes sense. One of the reasons why I don't treat crossverse seriously, needs far more assumptions than inverse to have a consistent framework. I only debated due to ego reasons. Okay, that's understandable. Well, look, that's the thing. So when you said Skull Knight is multi-city block or maybe town level, I felt something in my lower spine tense and like my eyes narrow, and I felt like the phrase "this motherfucker right here" bubble up in my throat through nothing that you did wrong. Okay, just to be clear, but there was a little primitive part of my brain that was like, he's going after my Skull Knight? That's my Skull Knight. You're saying that my Skull Knight is only city block level? Because I hear this in debates, right? Like, pull an example from a Noodles debate where Weeaboo Warrior said, like, Pain got hit by a Bijou bomb, and then Noodles responded by saying, it was just an island level Bijou bomb. That shit's trash. It doesn't scale anywhere. It's trash. It's garbage. Right? I'm like, it's still a Bijou bomb, first of all, and Pain still tanked it, second of all, but also, since when is island level trash? Like, this is the thing. We have, if you spend time with characters who are multiversal or whatever, and you calibrate your expectations to that height, and you're like, okay, things that are cool are the things that are this level, then everything else seems less cool by comparison. So calling somebody multi-city block level seems like slander. It seems derogatory, but it's not necessarily derogatory within that universe, right? It can still be like, I don't know, Vagabond, which I started reading recently. None of the characters in there are city block level. They're just swordsmen, but they're really fucking cool. I like the story so far. What's his name? Guts in Berserk, right? Like, with his cannon, he is wall level. With his berserk armor and his berserker sword, he's maybe city block level somehow. Like, he has, like, city block level AP. He can probably kill people who have, like, it depends on how you slice it, right? Because he kills that sea god, and that sea god is obviously, like, above city block level, but at the same time, that you can really break that down and dispute it and blah blah, like he hit his weak point or whatever, blah blah blah. But that's not the point. Guts was a fucking cool character, an interesting, compelling character when he was just wielding like a 20-pound broadsword, So I don't fucking I don't think it's derogatory. Dr. Strangle says power scaling is a good way to help interpret a series, especially in shonen, where that is part of the plot. But most of the time, people aren't doing that and are just motivated for for getting characters as strong as possible. Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from there. Yeah. Saria said before, thank God for that. Saint Seiya would be so lame. Yeah. Well, it sounds pretty awesome from the way that you've described it. Saria says, the only cross-verse I do is with a friend. We tend to get into discussions about how Kirby would deal with this Zelda enemy, how would Link deal with this Kirby enemy, Majora versus Magolor. That sounds cool. Yeah. I mean, I wonder, do you use stuff from like Super Smash Brothers? And I'm guessing not. I'm trying to think of any other cross games where like Kirby and Link would be hanging out, maybe a racing game or something, to argue for their like perception speed or whatever. Everyone says Noodles wouldn't survive a wall level Piju bomb, so you shouldn't hate on Island level. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. He didn't, in my opinion, he didn't survive the argument with the other person where he was talking about the Biju level or the island level Biju bomb. So actually, like, I think I'm probably. Yeah, guts damage the sea god by attacking the internal organs. Yeah. So you can argue that that's kind of a special case because he wasn't like, so that's an interesting point too. Like using a Naruto example, right? Let's say you had a character like, I don't know, like Jirobo or something, like, or like Choji, right? And fucking Lee goes in and punches Choji when he's in his big transformation, like big expansion mode, like human juggernaut mode, and doesn't do any damage. And then compare that to Neji, who goes in and he just lightly touches Lee. Or even for a more like pertinent example, that sound ninja was a Dosu Ursaku, who goes in and just kind of like gently flicks the device on his arm and defeats him with like the sound waves, right? Which one of them was stronger and which one of them had a higher level attack? Well, I mean, Neji's attack, as a good example, is specifically called the Gentle Fist because he's not striking particularly hard. He's just sort of shunting his chakra through and damaging his opponent's internal organs. And we could double check, but I think when this is first explained, Kakashi, our guy, mentioned that like you can't toughen up your internal organs. So you can't reinforce them, right? You can strengthen your body through physical training and through chakra, but like your heart and your liver and shit are always going to be vulnerable. And so the Gentle Fist, even though it has far less actual kinetic energy behind it, is still potentially deadlier than an attack that hits with much more force because of its ability to target the internal organs, right? I don't know if you would call that durability ignoring or if you would call that armor piercing or a hack or like how you would define it, but yeah, I think there are definitely attacks like that, right? Talking about Noodles for a second, I think, so I listened again to his debate with Apollo recently that we talked about with the Obito's controlling the Bijou Jinchuriki, and I don't know if it's going to be next week. I think at some point in the next few weeks I'm going to go back and do another review of that debate, specifically to go through and review like the debate tactics, because we more talked about the arguments and the, you know, like going through the summons and how they were controlled and stuff like that. But in listening back to it, I think I counted over 50 or 60 like individual positive claims, like assertions that were made by Noodles that were just either never substantiated or followed through, or just like were like he tried to provide evidence but it didn't work. And so it's sort of a textbook example of like what a gish gallop is and how not to do it and how to avoid it. And Apollo, even though he was really a dick quite a few times, he made a couple of quote unquote mistakes, although I don't really think they're big mistakes per se. I just think that it's like the sort of thing where, you know, he fell into a trap. He never should have been trapped in the first place. That shouldn't have been the point of the debate, but you know, it happened. But then he recovered, so it's like you can also learn from that too. But yeah, it's a textbook example of try to overwhelm your opponent with as many statements as possible. Try to trick them into making a positive claim, and then when they make a positive claim, just go all in on trying to like dispute the positive claim that they made, so that at the end of the day, they get exhausted, and then you move on to the next thing. And then you can say, well, I made this claim, my opponent never disputed it, and therefore it stands. And that way you never have to actually provide any evidence for your own claim. And it's extremely transparent when this happens, and it's almost baffling. Like like how is this actually happening? Like I was like in disbelief. But I think, in talking about debate rhetoric, debate etiquette, so to speak, it could be useful to kind of go over that. I think it would be fun anyway. Maybe I'll post a poll and see if you if you guys are fucking tired of hearing Noodle's voice, then we'll do something else. But yeah, we'll see how it goes next week. Let's see. Dr. Strangle says, I get excited by every tier, as getting people as high as possible isn't the purpose of me placing a character on a specific tier. For me, it's actually about actually seeing how strong a character is. Yes, exactly, right? Like, exploring the character, seeing what their abilities are, like how they function, getting a like deeper understanding of how they actually work, what their relevance is in the story, where they actually take that character, like all of that can be a very powerful and good thing. So let me amend what I said before. It's not that power scaling itself is toxic or anything like that. It's that power scaling is a tool that can be used to better understand a series. And if you can also use that tool. I wish I had some kind of a clever analogy here, but I guess like you can use a hammer to like nail something in and build something, or you can use a hammer to like destroy something and tear it apart, right? So it's like you can use it constructively or destructively. It really just depends, just like any other tool, right? And I think I'm lamenting the destructive part of it or the toxic part of it, but that doesn't mean like there's nothing inherently toxic about a hammer, right? So I hope that made some sense. Um, my partner keeps clowning on me because whenever I think of like half the time when I think of like, when I try to make an analogy about something, I think of a car. Like more than half of the analogies I made in my life are car related, which is dumb because I don't know anything about cars. All I know is that like I press this button and it turns on. I put my foot on this thing and it goes forward, and on that thing and it stops. Like that's pretty much it. Like I have no idea how it works, how the engine works, or any shit like that. I don't know if anything breaks. I can't fix it. I can't change a tire. I'm totally ignorant. But a car is the first, like it's the universal like catalyst for metaphor that my brain reaches for every fucking time. So I'm trying really hard to use examples that aren't just car related. I hope you're proud of me. um Roman says, Vagabond characters are insanely superhuman as well. Yeah, Vagabond is another series that the Vagabond is the one I started, yeah. So, I thought you were talking about Vinland Saga for a minute because that's another one that I gotta check out. A good friend of mine has recommended that multiple times, and I think I owe him now to fucking check it out finally. Saria says, not typically. We tend to be just like, okay, well, back in the Miitopia days, Nintendo said this and this, so these characters scale similarly, but we do use Smash's CGI cutscenes, though. Okay, cool. That makes sense, yep. Because Sakurai confirmed that the Zelda team had a lot of input on the games or on how they wanted the Zelda characters treated. Yeah, that makes sense. So they want it to be like, they want the characters to be represented consistently. Like, right, it wouldn't make sense for. I think that's probably kind of a difficult challenge to navigate too, especially for the Marvel movies and all that, right? Because if you put a Marvel movie out, I mean, I don't want to be this cynical and this like capitalistic about it, right? But like, one of the things that inevitably comes out of a movie like that is toys and toy sales and like merch sales and like any other spin-off like TV series or whatever. You have a massive like multiple revenue streams that are potentially impacted by the success of your main franchise and the way that characters interact with each other within that main franchise. So I kind of feel like they, before they even started writing Captain America versus Iron Man, or like whatever movie that fight took place in, Civil War, that they couldn't like, there was no way that they could decide that Iron Man was going to definitively like beat and trounce Captain America or vice versa, because then you would just be pissing off that half of the community or whatnot. They had to find a way to make sure that they each got good blows in, that they were each relative, that they they were each able to show occasional superiority to the other, but then also like sometimes win and sometimes lose, right? And same thing with the overall like roster of heroes. Obviously, somebody like Loki is going to be much more powerful overall than somebody like Hawkeye. But for the Hawkeye fans, they gotta put in at least one scene where he like shoots the arrow at Loki, and then Loki looks at it, and then he blows up, right? So like, you can't ever be too deprecating or derogatory towards any one character, with some exceptions, right? Like there was that speedster character in one of the Captain America movies that was it Scarlet Witch's brother or something that died, but he sacrificed himself, right? So it's not like he got treated as fodder. He just like wound up getting unlucky or like making a noble sacrifice. So that's okay, right? So um yeah, I hope that made some sense. But I can only imagine if you're trying to juggle like deal with all the spinning plates of all those different franchises in something like a in a Super Smash Brothers or whatnot, you're dealing with that kind of power dynamic, and you have all these different people who are very protective of their IP and of their characters, and they don't want their characters like being shown as okay, I'll give you a little example, and then I'll move on to the next thing. So I worked on a game where it was like based on the Matrix. It came out a little while ago, and there was a whole extended chase scene where they were using cars in, obviously on the highway, and people were blowing up the cars. And if I remember correctly, they wanted like there was a car company that wanted their car to be represented in the game, and so it was initially put in as part of the chase sequence, and then it was blown the fuck up, and then we got or the production company got a call back from those people, and they were fucking pissed because they were like, no, you're not showing our car exploding, because then people are going to associate our car with explosions. So like, okay, so do we just have it drive off the road? No, then they're going to think it's unsafe, etc., etc. They had like this huge list of demands that like you can show the car, but it has to be, or truck or whatever it was, but it has to be like, it can't be dirty, it can't have like a cracked windshield, it can't have anything wrong with it. It basically has to be like a commercial. And they're like, okay, fuck, it's this whole, all these hoops, because they don't want anyone thinking that there's anything wrong with their car. Now, if it's something like Fast and Furious, well, then there's like this power fantasy associated with it, and then it's different. Or if it's like the car or the truck is it's a truck and it's in a movie about like, you know, you're out in the west somewhere in the desert, and you're going exploring, and you're on this big adventure, then of course it's going to get dirty, and then the dirt becomes like a sign of the adventure. It's part of the image they want to cultivate. But otherwise, they're going to be there, they're going to be scrutinizing every fucking pixel, and if you do anything that they deem like derogatory to their car, they're going to fuck you up. Like, we wasted so much goddamn time reworking that shit because of the politics associated with that one fucking car. People are very protective of their IP. Saria says, so when we see Link fighting an evil Meta Knight and Marth, we're like, it's not far-fetched to say Kirby and Zelda are similar realms of power. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So there's a point of connection there. Saria says Kirby survived the World of Light via the Warp Star, and Link performed the best actually blocking Galeem's attack, dying because he lost his balance. Would have died regardless when the universe was consumed. Shit, I guess Kirby lore is crazy. I gotta get into that. I haven't really played a Kirby game seriously since Kirby Superstar, which still has some of the best fucking music in a video game, and I will gladly die on that hill. Oh, hey Worm, how's it going? Sorry it took me a while to get back to your comment. I did leave a comment or a reply earlier today. I appreciated the comment. Thank you for that. I've just been very busy and spending way too much time in front of the computer, so I've been like, honestly, rather than like going down and playing other games or watching movies, although I did see a movie with my partner, after work I've just kind of been going downstairs and like staring at the ceiling and just being like like totally zoning out, so I'm like way behind on correspondence and stuff. So thanks for your patience. But anyway, it's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good weekend. Thank you for asking how I'm doing. I am doing okay. I am just a little tired because of the overtime work, but it's actually starting to ramp down a little bit, which is exciting. I feel like I say that every week, and then like every time I come in to work on Monday, there's a new crisis, but they have to run out of ammo sometimes. So, but I've been enjoying like kind of catching up on stuff, so it's been fun. Let's see. Worm asked, Saria, does that mean you get scaling off of Super Smash Bros. Brawl's Subspace Emissary? Interesting. Saria says, only for personal discussions, not for main canon Zelda. But that makes sense, yeah. Still cool though, Subspace Emissary was my childhood. Man, there's a whole universe there, literally and figuratively, that I need to get back into. Vinland Saga is a 1 out of 10. God damn, that's a scathing indictment. I thought it was pretty universally loved. Is that not the case? Probably the worst anime manga I've seen. Oh, I thought it was like a full-on... Oh, you mean the anime and manga? Okay. Yeah, that is very surprising. I guess, like, just statistically, everybody that I happen to have talked to about it really likes it. What don't you like about it? Not trying to fight or anything, but I'm just curious, like, what you don't like about it. Dr. Strangle says suddenly being bullet speed for the for the plot is very funny. Oh, I see. I gotcha. Saria says, for sure, I loved it up until the Great Maze because it was so confusing as a kid, but then Link, Kirby, Pit, Mario were all on the same team. Was like, holy aura. That sounds awesome. Yeah, it sounds really cool to have like your favorite characters like get a chance to team up. Like, it's fucking awesome. And I think that's probably why everybody was losing their shit for the Avengers movie, right? It's just the convergence of all of these different like fan favorites. I want whatever the new thing is gonna be. Like, I can't wait. I'm still waiting for something that is like the spiritual successor to that kind of cultural phenomenon, if that makes sense. Oh my god, I just remember the animated Link versus Pick this Pit Nintendo 2. Link was kicking his ass. I don't even remember that either. That sounds fun though. Ryoman says, I'm creating a character in a game I'm playing right now. Should I set my signature as pain threshold or endurance? Can only choose one. I don't know, but off the top of my head, yeah, feel free to explain if you like. But I would probably say if endurance is going to be like running, sprinting, stamina, and stuff like that, I would probably put it in that, because my logic would be if you have enough endurance to keep yourself out of situations where you would be feeling pain, then you wouldn't need to worry as much about your pain threshold. But you could argue the opposite, right? Like if your pain threshold is super high, then you could force yourself to like endure more, I guess. So maybe it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But like I would probably go with endurance. Also, if endurance affects your other physical stats, like if it like my other question would be like, does it unlock other things, right? Like if you invest in endurance, does it give you access to more perks later down the line that are more advantageous? I would be curious where the skill trees go in the long term, you know. Ryoman says, I think Vinland Saga is extremely simple and unrealistic, but tries to appear extremely mature. I don't find any of the themes interesting either. I only like the character in it. Okay, well that's cool. I'll check it out because I want to like see. Now I want to see if I fall in the middle between you and my friend who's like really really into it. We'll see. Well, with that being said, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark, so I think it's probably a good time to start to transition into some of the Lightspeed discussion. Let me know, of course, if you have any other questions or things that you want to bring up. Feel free to interrupt at any time. I'm happy to jump around. But yeah, so for those who are just joining this particular series of streams, or for oh, sorry, it says I'm sending the link on Discord. It's really fuck me. Let me try that again. I'm sending the link on Discord. It's really old, but please watch it when you get a chance. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. Oh, Disco Elysium. I was wondering about that. It sounded like that it would fit in with Disco Elysium as well. That's cool. That's cool. So, yes, if you are just joining this series of streams, welcome. Thank you so much for checking it out. If you are returning, welcome back. As always, happy to have you. Happy to have the discussion. So, as mentioned before, we're going to be talking about Lightspeed in Naruto. And for the past couple of weeks, we've basically taken our time and gone over a few things. We've gone over the overall use of databooks in forming Lightspeed scaling arguments. We've talked about the Kirin Jutsu specifically. We've talked in great detail about the Sharingan and about specifically Haku's supposed light speed feats and his movement between the mirrors. And today we're going to wrap things up by talking about the Heavenly Transfer Jutsu, and then briefly talk about a couple of other random assorted things, and maybe do a little bit of a video response towards the end. I think this is going to be, well, I always say this, but so who knows? But this should be a slightly faster paced stream, maybe. Who knows? That being said, the main takeaways, as far as I'm concerned, from the previous streams are basically this, right? Like, the databooks themselves in Naruto, I don't think are particularly reliable. And what I mean by that is that, like, I don't think we should be taking the statements out of the databooks for jutsu descriptions, and just taking them, literally and at face value, and then putting them into power scaling terms, because there's a lot of statements throughout the databooks, and here's the list that we talked about last time, but this is only a small fraction, just to be clear, of things within the databooks that just don't match what we see in the series. So the manga itself is our primary source. The databooks are there to help us understand them, yes, and to help expand our understanding and fill in gaps and provide data, yes, but at the end of the day, like, if they outright contradict what's in the manga, then that's a problem. And so I think they should be taken with a heavy grain of salt. Unfortunately for folks discussing, Lightspeed stuff, if you are a fan of Lightspeed arguments, that's okay. But the challenge in substantiating Lightspeed arguments, from my perspective, is just that, you know, the vast majority of statements come from the databooks, and if the databooks aren't particularly reliable, then it's like, okay, well, what are we even doing, right? Like, they're basically, it's very hard to build an argument on those shaky foundations. So today I want to talk primarily about the uh, actual statements that we have from the from the manga itself about the speed of light. And not to put too fine a point on it, but the at the end of the day, there is only one use of the phrase speed of light that I was able to find in the entire series. Meaning, like, there's one in the anime that I'll mention later, but the only one I was able to find in the actual manga, reading through the whole manga, is in relationship to this jutsu called ethereal transmission. And we can also glean some further information about light speed limitations by examining ethereal transmission. So let's just start off tonight by going in and looking at how the ethereal transmission is used. And keep in mind that there's some quirks to this, so it's going to take a minute to kind of explain real quick. Okay, so now we're in chapter 529, and if you need a quick refresher, so this is near the beginning of the war. At this point, Kinkaku and Ginkaku have showed up, and Ginkaku went into his Biju mode, and so he's in like his Nine Tails. Well, not Biju mode, sorry. He's in his V2 state with like, Kurama chakra, and he's fighting Choza and Choji, and they're having Darui's fighting them as well, and they're having trouble dealing with him, and it's still within the first day. You can see it's still day out, and as they are fighting one another, they are also back at HQ having a discussion about the strength of these two characters and how like terrifying they are and how it's going to be difficult to deal with them, right? And so they're trying to develop a strategy to figure out what the deal is. So here is what the Raikage says. There's only one way to deal with him. Kinkaku's power and chakra volume may be great. It's supposed to be great. We can use their fifth and final treasure tool against him. Come with me. I think they're talking about the Sage of Six Paths tool, right? So Darui has access to this gourd and to this, I forget what this is called, this sort of blade type object, this fan type object, and he is has used it to seal Ginkaku in the gourd, but he's having trouble with Kinkaku, right? I always get the two of them confused, but I think that's right. So this dude over here says they're sending in the amber purification jar, and Darui says, I see, it'll definitely be better than this gourd. So it's an upgrade compared to what he has now. Here is the amber purification jar. This is the fifth treasure that was used to seal away Eight Tails, the amber purification jar. Okay, so whoever this is says doesn't seem like anything special, to which the reply is, you don't need the other tools for this jar to work. All you do is say the target's name, and if they respond, their voice is recorded and they're trapped inside it. We were able to take just this, what the fuck? We were able to take just this one from the Gold and Silver Brothers. It's such a weird sentence. I'm going to send this to Darui so he can seal Kinkaku away. The situation on the front is urgent. It will take too long to transport this. Lord Raikage, I'm ready. I can send it to Darui anytime you wish. Okay? So let's just stop there for a second. This is a very important item. It needs to get to the battlefield quickly because they're actively fighting Ginkaku, or whatever. They're actively fighting Kaku, and they don't know what to do with him, and he's causing too much of a problem. People are dying. They need to get this there soon. And this is the object that will directly counter Kaku. Like, okay, sorry, it's written right here. I should actually pay attention. Kinkaku. Sorry, they're trying to counter Kinkaku. They need to get this to the battlefront. It is stated to be urgent, and Shikaku doesn't think they're going to be able to get there in time. So my temptation here is to say that, well, actually, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but basically, like, I think just to be aware going forward that Shikaku is also saying, like, I think Shikaku doesn't expect that the Raikage would be leaving this place, or Tsunade would be leaving this place, or anybody else, right? Because this is the HQ. This is where they all need to kind of stay here to coordinate for the war. So I think what he's saying specifically is, like, there's nobody here who can get to the battlefield fast enough with this fucking large-ass object in order to have it make it there in time and be useful. So what do you think that means? You think that means like they can't get there within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour? I'm not sure. We never get a specific time frame, but it seems to me like that's what Shikaku's saying. That like if we were to send somebody with this thing on their back and have them run there, then they probably wouldn't get there in time, and like the tide of the battle would switch. So then Mabui says, I am ready. She's preparing this jutsu, which incidentally, take note of that hand sign there. She says, I can send it to Darui anytime you wish. And then the Raikage says this, Mabui's ninjutsu skill is object teleportation. So she can send any object anywhere at the speed of light. That's why she's my secretary. I had Mabui keep the jutsu handy in case something like this happened. However, if it used to be one of their ninja tools, I'm sure he knows how to counter it too, so we need to figure out how to make him respond. Okay, and so they have this little exchange over there. Mabui uses ethereal transmission jutsu, and this is interesting. We see that the amber purification jar gets surrounded by this blue light. We see the sound effect that says buzz, and then we see a sound effect that says zap, and then we see what looks like a blue lightning bolt, and the blue lightning bolt crashes down onto the ground, and then there is the purification jar that is basically intact, and then Darui uses it to seal Kinkaku. Okay, so a couple of things worth noting here. First of all, I do think it's interesting that the technique has like this buzzing noise associated with it, and it has a zap noise associated with it, and this lightning bolt, the blue coloration of it and everything, and the zap over here and the buzz, all of that is consistent with lightning. Obviously, it's consistent with the way that Kirin is depicted before, obviously. So I don't know if we need to read into that at all. That doesn't mean that it is or isn't light speed or whatever else, but I think that that's worth noting, at least in terms of the aesthetics of how it was designed. I also think that it's important to note that the Raikage says, I had Mabui keep the jutsu handy in case something like this happened, right? And so he's also specifically saying that like Mabui is kept around for her ability to do this, right? It's because she can transport objects this quickly that she is kept around by the Raikage. So it's obviously something that is highly prized or praised or whatever you want to call it, and something that is a very useful tool when the time comes for it. There's also this area that kind of looks like an anime poop. I never realized that, a blue anime poop. That has been set aside for it to send objects with, okay? And then there's this final thing from the Raikage, and I think this is the one of the two times that we hear the phrase the speed of light. The Raikage again says, object teleportation, so she can send any object anywhere at the speed of light. That's why she's my secretary. So that's interesting, right? Any object anywhere at the speed of light, but it's also object teleportation. And from what we hear about like the teleportation technique for like Gamabunta being summoned, right, that's never depicted as being the speed of light. Like any of the animal summons that are ever summoned in, nobody ever says anything about that teleportation being the speed of light. Nobody ever says anything about like going in and out of Kamui being the speed of light, although I don't know, maybe it's faster because it's instantaneous. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I'm not going to make a claim about that right now, right? But this is the first time that I can recall that teleportation itself is seen as being faster than light movement. Remember that, like, semantically speaking, teleportation is you are at one place in one moment, and then the very next moment you are just in a different place. You're not like physically translocating your body across distance. You are simply existing in another place, like after an interval of time, not moving throughout a duration of time, if that makes sense. So let's just keep this in mind. I don't want to jump to any conclusions yet. I want us to like continue to accumulate context, but this is where we start, and this is the first instance of the phrase speed of light that's ever mentioned in the series. Okay. Let me check chat real quick. Characters have slower than light speed. At least a couple of them have to have slower than light speed travel, but I don't think that I've like definitively made the whole case yet or anything. Sorry says, so a lot of the issues you have with light speed is that all the evidence for it is from supplemental material that often exaggerates or boasts a jutsu's power, right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, using the Water Fang bullet as an example, right? The Water Fang bullet, I think, comes from the second data book, and it says firing bullets at the speed of light. The water comes out of a blind spot to gore the enemy. Something like that, right? And it's like, okay, there's no mention of it being light speed in the series. If it is light speed, and we're going to do shit like applying F equals MA to those particles, like we talked about last week, the water globs or whatever you want to call them, there should be enormous amounts of power behind them that we don't see, unless they're just absorbed by Kakashi's water wall. Kakashi's water wall would then have, like, I don't know, I'm pulling this like an arbitrary number out of my brain, but like it mountain level at least, you know, probably more like small country or like island level or something, because he's getting hit by these probably 1 pound objects, like 5 or 6 of them that are moving at the speed of light, and he's just able to just absorb that casually. So then, like, why is he why is anybody threatened by Biju bombs if part 1 Kakashi can absorb that amount of force? It, like, does that actually fit with everything else we see in the series? So we have, and then also if you go through the data books and look at a bunch of different statements, like read the data books from start to finish, all 4 of them, you will find time and time again, there's all of these jutsu that say, like, this technique is inescapable, this technique is unavoidable, this technique cannot be defeated, there's no technique known to mankind to be able to thwart this jutsu, right? Like, this jutsu blows away everything in front of it, this, you know, can catch an enemy at any speed. And it's like, there's so much goddamn hyperbole. There's no precedent that I see for having the data books be trustworthy in that sense, in the sense of we can just use the statements verbatim out of context for power scaling. There's this assumption, I guess it's a truism, if that's the right term for it, where people have just accepted that, like, well, this is written by the author, so everything in the data books is true. Just take it at face value and plug it in wherever you want. But then, like, it's to the point where people are taking, like, I'm kind of, again, like, I'm spoiling things, but like in Key's video, actually no, I'm not going to spoil it, I want to talk about it when we get there, but yeah, basically you are correct, and that is the problem. And I think that people are ultimately, like, they find the implications of things in the supplementary material to be more compelling than the stuff in the base material, and so they are, or the source material, and so they are, like, retrofitting, pseudo retconning from a fan perspective the actual source material and making the source material fit the supplementary material, rather than the other way around. So I think that's bass backwards. Sarga says, I'm asking because that's a similar stance that I have. Like, it's easier to believe the shenanigans in Seiya because there isn't a Kaizen shu or fan book like it's just said in the manga. Hades is very nonchalant, so there's never any reason to assume he's lying either. Bro just wants to wreck shit. Yeah. I mean, that was something that came up with was the first argument that was made in Noodles versus Apollo. Like, I don't even remember exactly what was said. I think Noodles said something like, you know, Kakuzu says that he has virtually no physical attack can harm him or something like that, and Kakuzu consistently does what he says and is consistently honest and doesn't lie, so he's probably right about that, so he probably can't be hurt by physical attacks. And then the first thing that Apollo argued with is, like, well, just because he's honest doesn't mean that he's, like, correct about that. Like, is honesty the same as accuracy? And then they kind of went off the rails from there, but yeah. Dr. Strangle says, 103 subs, congrats. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. We've had, like, a cluster of people join up in the past month, and it's been super awesome, super grateful. The conversations have been great as well. Had new people stopping by and asking questions and participating. It's really, really cool. I'm really appreciative of you guys, like, all you guys. Thank you again for the 103, genuinely. Okay, so here we go. So Madara, at this point, we're skipping ahead from 529 to 562. In this chapter, Madara has just appeared in the battlefield and is kicking the collective asses of the people who are already there, including the Tsuchikage and the Kazekage, but obviously the other 3 Gokage aren't there yet, so they need the reinforcements. Okay, and this is what happens. Tsunade starts to head off towards the place where the ethereal transmission jutsu took place. Katsuyu is a little alarmed, and Tsunade says, Mabui, right, prepare your ethereal transmission jutsu and come with me. Okay, so Mabui says the ethereal transmission jutsu is for transporting objects. It's not like Kuchiyose summoning. Okay, so that, and not like reverse Kuchiyose summoning. It's not meant for people, really. So this is actually important. That was a question that I had back here about, like, object teleportation and stuff like that. Okay, so it's not, whatever their definition of object teleportation is different from like a summoning technique. Okay, so Mabui kind of clarifies that the Raikage might be a little dumb. Like, so Mabui's like, no. Okay, so it's not actually like the teleportation that we use for stuff like summoning. They're not reverse summoning the object to the battlefield. They're literally sending it. They're transporting it. Okay, so what's her name? Tsunade says there's no time to debate the fine points. We won't know until we try it. And then Mabui says, no, we do know. The transmission rate is so fast that the body cannot keep up, and one just comes out torn apart and dead on the other side. Okay? The transmission rate is so fast that the body cannot keep up, and one just comes torn apart and dead on the other side. So, now it says this. The only one who has ever successfully traveled using this jutsu is the third Raikage, and only then because of his extra tough physique. Perhaps it would be possible for the fourth Raikage, being of the third lord's blood, but certainly not for you, Lady Hokage. So, they don't actually say anything about, whatchamacallit, anything about the speed of light at this point, right? They didn't say anything? Okay. So, Shukaku says this, Raikage says this. Shukaku then says, I've got an idea of the flying Raijin jutsu. We could summon Genma's platoon here, put a jutsu formula on Katsuyu that Mabui then transmits, since I have the ability to survive being split into pieces. Okay, so there's a little bit more detail over there. They think it's too risky and it's going to potentially harm Tsunade. So what they're going to do instead is they can summon Genma, because like Genma's platoon has a summoning contract or whatever, and they have the ability to physically bring Genma here. And then they can put a jutsu formula on Katsuyu, and then that can be used to get him to the battlefield, right? So they're doing a combination of summoning and reverse summoning, and then using Katsuyu as part of that process. And Katsuyu herself should be able to go to, like, through the ethereal transmission, because if she does, then that's fine, right? Like, she can be split up and she'll be okay, she can survive it. So what this is saying is that if Katsuyu herself goes through, she's probably going to be like torn apart. Like, she's going to be shredded, but that's okay because she can like break herself into pieces anyway. So Tsunade then says, no need, I'll use this. Okay, it's still dangerous to gamble, Lady Tsunade. You're not known to be a shark. That's when I bet money. It's different when I wager my life. That's why I'm still alive. And then Raikage says, prepare to perform the ethereal transmission jutsu twice. Although I guess she doesn't actually do it twice. She just does it for two people, but whatever. Lord Raikage, not you too. The situation has reached a climax. Now's the time for Supreme Commander to make his entrance. Matter of the Uchiha clan. If we don't shut down his fire style, we have no chance of winning. We'll save the Flying Raijin Jutsu to use against him. Okay, so they're not going to play, like, show their hand and use that right away. Now, there is something that I want to mention very quickly over here. So, okay, here we go. We have the Raikage and Tsunade, and we do see the ethereal transmission jutsu be activated by her. We see Tsunade doesn't start off with her diamond activated, right? Some people think that she starts off with the 100 healings already going when the jutsu starts. She doesn't really do that. It's still kind of sealed. She hasn't released the seal yet, at least I think. And then the Raikage also seems to kind of be like not super happy. They're both kind of grunting. So even before the technique is really started, they're both kind of in pain, it looks like, in some amount of pain. And then we have this, right? This is Genma's platoon over here. And Mei says instantaneous transportation, right? And they're about to use the Flying Raijin. So they're classifying the Flying Raijin as instantaneous, whereas the other is high-speed transmission. Okay, so now they kind of explain like why they can do this, although it's really hard, so they have to use all three of them to do it. Okay, and then this happens over here. Lady Tsunade bears the jutsu formula on her. As soon as she arrives on the battlefield, we'll be flying out there ourselves. So what's going to happen is that the source of the Flying Raijin jutsu is on Tsunade, and so Tsunade has to physically move to the battlefield, and then once Tsunade is physically on the battlefield, Mei and her platoon can use Flying Raijin to move directly to the battlefield. Okay, so here's something too, right? Here's Madara and here's Mu, and they are both moving towards Naruto and Gaara. As they are moving, they see the little ethereal transmission things coming up from the sky. They're in front of them, and then there is a flash of light, and then out of the flash of light, we see Tsunade and the Raikage. Tsunade goes for Madara, and the Raikage goes for Mu, and they punch them back. Madara does slightly better than Mu does. And then after all of that, Tsunade activates her art of mitotic regeneration and starts to heal herself. And you can see at this point she's already quite wounded, quite bloody, and obviously not having a great day. So then she starts to kind of regenerate herself. So let's let all that sink in for just a second. I'm going to read chat, and then I'll like break down my analysis of that and why I think that there's some quirks in there, the things we need to understand for lightspeed travel. Okay. So, Saria says, is there a lore reason why Honoki has such a big nose? I'm sure it was part of his design, honestly. Like, I think that from my interpretation, Mr. Crystal Moto makes deliberate decisions when designing his characters and their attire and stuff to deliberately like reflect or directly reflect their personality. And he doesn't do this for every single character. Like, I don't know, cool, Raito has a scar or whatever, like this guy chews on a stick. Maybe there's some out there that don't have as elaborate character designs. This guy is just grumpy. I don't even know what the fuck is going on with him. But like a lot of characters do have very iconic designs. So I think that it's just meant to give him kind of a squat and frumpy and like more angular appearance, I guess. Like it almost looks like a stone that's been stuck to his face. It makes him look a little bit more comical. I think like how angular and how rigid his mustache is and how big his eyebrows are. I mean, these are obviously like all part of that design. So I don't know specifically. I don't know if it's a reference to anything or whatnot, but it seems to me like it would be a deliberate choice. I'm gonna commission Sage's Reign to do a video breaking down like all the noses, like a Naruto nose tier list. But okay. Anyway, so there's a couple of things that I want to really emphasize here. First of all, I think if these characters are actually moving at the speed of light here, it's worth considering that Mu and Madara are also are supposed to be light speed, because like everybody is supposed to be light speed right now, right? But they still get outsped by this incoming light speed thing. So, and then when the flash of light happens, they're also like, they act defensive about it and they kind of halt in their tracks. And it doesn't, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell exactly where everybody is, but it doesn't seem like they got any closer. I guess that's an argument from ignorance. We don't really know for sure. But we see them getting intercepted by the light. So at least in this moment, it kind of seems to me like they must be moving slower than the speed of light, especially if this stuff is moving in at light speed. Now, I still think there's an edgy argument that maybe this isn't literally light speed. Maybe it's more like lightning speed because of all the other like lightning shit that we've talked about. But I mean, I admit that is edgy, so I'm not gonna like double down on that. But that being said, these two characters transport themselves to the battlefield. They show up, there is a flash of light, and then after that, after the reaction, we then see them come out of that. And there are these like lines around them that kind of indicate that they're, I don't know, it's like a surge of power or whatnot. But the lines are no longer blue, like they're no longer reflecting the same color. And they don't have like the zap sound as far as I can see. That's associated with being in the ethereal transmission. So I've heard some people say that they come out of the ethereal transmission at the speed of light, and they are moving at the speed of light here. I don't think that's what happens. I think the ethereal transmission itself is the speed of light, or lightning, but I'm going to say light. It shows up and arrives in front of Madara, and whose skirt is billowing in the wind here. It's beautiful. Nice rear view of Madara there. And gets in front of them before they can reach the rest of the characters over here. And then there is a flash of light, and after the flash of light, they come out swinging. The Raikage is basically fine. It looks super chunky in this picture for some reason. Basically fine. Tsunade is bleeding from multiple places. She's like covered in blood. And then she starts to use her mitotic regeneration to heal herself after the fact. So she's taken enough damage that she feels the need to release this seal, which is pretty significant, right? The last time we saw her do that was when she had gotten like pierced through the chest by Orochimaru and like had the shit kicked out of her by Kabuto and all that. She was really not in a good way. And so now, and Kabuto I think also used like techniques on her that were like, hurting her internal organs and stuff. So that suggests to me like the blood is leaking out from her mouth as well as like coming down her like various parts of her body, and like it seems like it's coming out from below as well. So she's hemorrhaging blood from all over her body, and she needs to use this technique to heal herself. And going back up one more time to what was said before is just that the transmission rate, right, is so fast that the body cannot keep up, and one just comes out torn apart and dead on the other side. So this is my interpretation of what's happening. This specific technique moves the people from one place to another physically. Whether you think it's literally light speed or not, let's just assume that it is. It takes your body and physically like brings you up into the sky or something, and then brings you down at the speed of light to the target location. Whether it's like moving you, like I don't know exactly if it like moves you up in an arc like a rainbow or something, and you're just like going pew like an artillery shot across the sky or whatever. It kind of looks like you go straight up and then you just come straight down. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Maybe it's kind of like an orbital cannon where they just get sent so high up into the air, and they kind of like switch and they get shot back down to the ground. I don't know. It's not really explained. The point is, they go from the Shinobi HQ all the way to the battlefield in basically the blink of an eye, like basically like that, right? But it's also mentioned that it's not instantaneous because there is a very distinct line drawn between this method of transportation and the instantaneous transportation of something like a summoning jutsu or the flying Raijin. Right? And so, in addition to that, we're told that the transmission rate is so fast that the body cannot keep up. So sometimes I'll hear people say, okay, this is and one very important thing, right? That Tsunade, despite being very durable, being a tank, like also having a lot of healing abilities, and specifically being like, in terms of her jutsu, a taijutsu specialist, which means she's striking with great physical force, right? Despite that fact, she's not able to just move at the speed of light with this technique. The Raikage is able to do it. So in order to move at the speed of light and not get hurt by it, you need to be more durable than Tsunade, and like somewhere between her durability and the durability of the Raikage. I'm not saying you have to be exactly as strong as the Raikage. You could be lesser to a certain extent, but you definitely have to be at, like significantly higher than Tsunade and approaching Raikage territory. And the reason that we get for this is because of the transmission rate. Not because of the transmission rate over a long distance, not the transmission rate and like you're gonna be accumulating friction as you're moving through the air and like you're heating up and stuff like that. Not because you're gonna be crashing into a shitload of trees as you're running around at the speed of light, etc., etc. If your body moves this fast, even if you're like small like Katsuyu, and you don't have this durability, the speed itself is going to fuck you up. It's going to tear you apart, and you are going to fucking die unless you have some other kind of ability. So I want to get ahead of this. To me, this particular scene demonstrates that no character in the series, especially in part 1, no character in the series can travel at the speed of light at all for any amount of time, because unless they have this level of durability, because if they do, they will hurt themselves. Now, notice in that there is a little loophole that I put in there, right? Like, it is possible for characters to travel at the speed of light without breaking the rules, but the rule is that they would get hurt. They would injure themselves to a certain extent. Now, people will like to say, oh, well, there's a difference between travel speed and combat speed. Yes, there is. I agree. It's entirely possible for characters to have techniques that boost their traversal speed and not be able to use those techniques practically in combat. Like, if you think about, I don't know, like Sonic the Hedgehog, like, has boost techniques like the light speed dash or whatever, but then if he, like, punches or kicks, he's not necessarily going to be able to punch or kick that fast. Shit like that, right? That makes total sense. We've used, like, Star Wars examples, too, before. Like, the Millennium Falcon can go into warp speed and go super fast, but can't necessarily, like, bank, turn, and, like, fire phasers at warp speed, or, like, lasers at warp speed, or blasters, whatever they're called, right? So, yes, there is some nuance there. However, what the manga is telling us is that it's the speed itself, right? It's not the speed in a certain circumstance. It's not the speed in a certain application. It's not the speed encountering other things. It's the speed at all. It's the speed inherently that's actually causing the damage. It's being transmitted at that rate. Like, not due to the distance or whatever else, it's the speed itself. So, as far as I'm concerned, for there to be any character who can move at the speed of light in Naruto, without getting damaged, without showing immediate signs of fatigue, they first need to demonstrate this level of durability. And also, we're in a series where people are very clear, and it's very clearly explained to us what the caveats and risks of various jutsu are. For example, the Susanoo, like, Sasuke is very clear that, like, it fucking hurts to have that shit up. Obviously, when he gets into the end of the series, he gets Sage 6 Path mode and stuff like that. Like Madara, they don't complain about it. But remember, he says when he first uses it at the 5 Kage Summit, he's like, wow, I feel like, or maybe it's during the Danzo fight, I forget. He says something like, I feel like every cell in my body is breaking apart. I can only imagine how much more intense it would have been for Itachi to use, like, the completed, like, the full version of the Susanoo, right? So, yeah, that's pretty consistent, I think. But we don't ever have any character demonstrating, like, oh shit, I just threw my punch at the speed of light, now my fucking hand really hurts, you know? Like, anything like that. Damn it, like, I started twerking at the speed of light and now I gotta go to the hospital, you know? Like, nothing like that ever happens. So obviously this doesn't, like, totally debunk light speed, and especially once we get to, like, Madara's Light Fang, like, okay, it's fucking Madara. If the Raikage can move at the speed of light without getting injured, do I have a problem with the Madara, like Sage Mode Madara or whatever, that fucking Jinchuriki Madara moving at the speed of light? No, obviously, like, this wouldn't debunk Madara moving at the speed of light. However, with regards to the Raikage, I will say that if the Raikage himself was capable of moving to the battlefield at the speed of light, or traveling at the speed of light in the first place, that's another thing. Why does the Raikage keep Mabui around when Mabui's specific, like, purpose is to just get objects to the battlefield? Why is he shooting objects up into the stratosphere? I'm making that up, but, like, why is he, like, rail cannoning the objects all the way to the battlefield if he is in a territory, right, where he has, like, he's a strong shinobi himself. He has strong shinobi with him. He has multiple shinobi in his village that use, like, lightning techniques that are super fast. And he has, like, B, he has Darui, etc., right? So, like, if characters around this level are supposed to be the speed of light, then why is he, like, relying on somebody to rail cannon the fucking things there instead of just guarding them in person and sending them in person with a courier or something like that? Or even in this situation, why doesn't he just go there himself? Even if the battlefield is thousands of miles away, he could get there in less than a second. We looked at this before, right? If you travel at the speed of light, you can get around the entire circumference of the Earth 7 times in 1 second. So even if it took the Raikage a full second to get from where he is to the battlefield, that would mean that he would still have traveled 7 times the circumference of the Earth. So when we looked at the geography of the Naruto Earth before, I don't think it's like, what is that, like 7 times 24,000? I don't think it's that fucking big. So as long as it's acceptable for him to get to the battlefield in, like, a second, he should be fine, as long as it's within 24,000 miles or something like that. It takes Mabui longer to, like, prepare our chakra and use the jutsu and send them both there, like, to get everything ready to do that, than it would just take him for him to run there if he could actually move at the speed of light. Oh, but he can't move at the speed of light in movement speed. He can only move at that in speed in combat speed. Well, my response to that is, well, where's the evidence of that? Where do we actually see him performing a light speed feat? Like, where do we see any character perform a light speed feat? And that's where we sort of break off from this topic. So I think I'll take a break. I'll read the chat. Hopefully I've articulated this point clearly enough that, like, I do think that the one time we ever hear anybody in the series itself ever describe anything as the speed of light, we are also given major fucking caveats as to why that sort of speed is not usually used, why it's bad for you to even try to use it, and why specifically a technique that, like, moves you at that speed is used instead of the individual themselves moving at that speed. So on the one hand, we have the Databooks saying, oh no, dude, fucking Itachi's totally shitting out water like water blast at the speed of light casually in part 1. And on the other hand, we have the manga saying, hey, if you motherfuckers are going to try this, you're probably going to die. Here are the rules. Be very fucking careful, and you can only do this under these circumstances. And that's kind of part of why I don't like the light speed arguments as well. Like, even if I was, if there's evidence against it, I would have to acknowledge that, obviously. But doesn't it kind of undermine, like, the entire narrative thrust of this dialogue here? Like, the whole point of this particular jutsu is that it's super, super fast. And its super fast speed is what is giving these characters this advantage that allows them to kind of turn the tide of the battle. And it's such a dramatically impressive and awesome jutsu that Tsunade is willing to gamble and risk her life to use it, because that's how important it is for her to get to the battlefield, right? Oh, sorry, guys, you're all a bunch of schmucks, because in part 1, like 12-year-old and 14-year-old kids were already the speed of light. Sorry, you thought you were special. You thought you were like gambling your lives on this really cool and unique thing. Mapui was kept along for the specific purpose. Sorry, dummy. Children could already do this. Nobody ever mentioned it. It was never actually mentioned by the children themselves. Like, Naruto himself never said, holy shit, bro, I just moved at the speed of light. You know, Naruto was always like bragging about himself and being like, look at me, I'm the coolest, check me out, pay attention to me. That kid never said anything about himself being able to move at the fucking speed of light at age 12, but he still did it. So sorry. Sorry, Raikage. Sorry, Suna. Sorry, Mabui. Y'all suck. Y'all are some basic bitches. You had a whole fucking time skip and the entire preparation for the war arc to catch up, and you're still barely catching up with kids from years ago. I think that kind of ruins everything, and I hate it, and I'm mad. Okay. I'm done. So, catching up now. Saria says Raikage hurting from lightspeed travel, wilted rose. The Chad Ganondorf dodging arrows made of pure light without a Triforce speed with his back turned. Yeah, Ganondorf is basically pain. You remember that? I don't want to lose this chapter. 1 second. Remember that thing with pain in the Jiraiya fight that we talked about? Hang on a second. There's actually a misprint. I wanted to run this by you, Saria. Thought you would find this kind of amusing. Damn it, I went too far. May have gone too far in a few places. Yep, 1 second. We're gonna get there. As long as we don't get rate limited. Is it here? Nope. It's here. Okay, so 377. Remember when Pain summoned the animal path panda when Jiraiya was attacking him from behind with the Kebari Senbon and just blocked it like that without even fucking looking at him? I mean, obviously he was looking through the Renegon shared field of vision, but the animal path himself is just like, yeah, fuck you. This is a misprint. They actually meant to put Ganondorf in here. So sorry for that mistake. You can bother Kishimoto about it. Anyway. So Dr. Strangle says, yes, that jar used a transmission technique, also hit the ground at the speed. Yeah, that's the other thing too, right? Like, it starts to get weird because technically speaking, the characters and the jar are wrapped up. They're like surrounded in the chakra, right? They're covered in the, want to call it lightning chakra or whatever the fuck it is. The blue glowy stuff. So you could make the argument that, so people will say like, hang on a second, why is the physical object not being damaged, but the humans are, right? Like, wouldn't moving at the speed of light actually be causing damage to the physical objects? And this is where I start to be like, I don't fucking know, because I don't even know why they're actually getting hurt by this, to be honest, in terms of the mechanics under the hood, right? Like, I think you could make an argument that what's happening is that they are accelerating up to close to the speed of light and then immediately decelerating back down. And that amount, the amount of G-force that would put on their body would just basically like cause so much damage that it would be, you know, like ripping them apart at a cellular level. And that the bonds of the you know, like the bond, I don't fucking know, like the lipid bilayers in their cells or whatever are not strong enough for their like connections to be maintained, so their cells are gonna like get ripped apart and they're gonna come out like a big gross puddle on the other end. But if you're sending a piece of metal, well, the metal might like heat up or whatever, but the like molecular bonds in the metal can still survive that kind of g-force, which I don't actually know if that's true. It just seems intuitively the case to me that like metal would be able to survive like a higher g-force than fucking human being. But I'm assuming this particular choreography or like sequence of events, and I'm assuming that the damage is coming from acceleration and deceleration, because that just what makes sense to me. But I don't really know if that's true, because like somebody would probably correct me on this, but like if you have a like a spaceship and you start accelerating at 100 miles an hour, right? Or like you apply, I don't fucking know, like 10 meters per second squared acceleration to your spaceship going in like a forward heading, and you keep that acceleration being applied, right? So like you're constantly accelerating because you're in a vacuum, nothing is like rubbing up against you. You have no drag, no air resistance, or anything like that. That acceleration is just going to keep adding and adding and adding and adding over time, and eventually you should be able to get close to the speed of light if you keep that up long enough, right? Like it's not physically possible, as far as I know, for us to travel at the speed of light, but hypothetically, if we could just indefinitely accelerate ourselves, I mean, obviously, like your trajectory is going to be altered by the gravity of any massive objects that you're passing by, but still, there's nothing about going near the speed of light in and of itself relative to some arbitrary point in space that causes you harm inherently. It's about the acceleration. As long as the acceleration is gentle enough, like spacecraft can get up to thousands of miles an hour. They can't do that on Earth because the forces like fucking us up, like air resistance and stuff like that would destroy the craft and like kill the people inside. But in space, where there's no resistance like that, yeah, it's possible. It's rather trivial compared to what you might think, at least if I understand it correctly. So my best guess here is that that's what's happening. But also, like, what does it mean when the jar like comes down to the ground? Does it actually like smash into the ground? If so, that jar has to be really fucking strong. They kind of made it sound like they could send other types of supplies. You could argue that the jar is a tool of the Sage of Six Paths, and so it's like super durable. It has like magical, I don't know, grandpa energy to it. But if they use this technique on a regular basis to send other things to it, I don't know. They send some kunai. Are the kunai like fucking blessed by like anime Jesus? I don't think so. So it's one of those things where it's like, again, there's a certain amount of quote unquote magic here. There's a certain amount of like soft world building where I don't think we have all the details, and I think it's a little sketchy to try and apply like hard physics to it. We could try, but I just don't know if we're gonna get a perfect explanation. So I don't know if I answered your question there, or like I think I responded to what you said. Hopefully, Realman says, I know certain ways to argue against this. I can share later, but currently playing game. Yeah, let me know how it goes. And I'd be curious to hear your arguments, but of course, no pressure. Let me see. It could be a function of that lightning-looking stuff, or just the fact that you're moving at the speed of light, which damages you. Yeah, so that was the other thing I forgot to say. Like, another thing is that lightning chakra that's surrounding them could be protecting them somehow. And I'm saying lightning because it looks like lightning. I don't know if it's lightning release or anything. But it could be that, like, since this is a jutsu, right, they're wrapped up in some kind of protective coating that, like, mitigates the effects of light speed travel, but it's still, like, really challenging. Like I wish I could think of an example, but I remember watching some kind of a sci-fi thing where characters go into like a warp speed travel and they're not supposed to, like they're supposed to be in cryo sleep, and because it like the human brain is, maybe it was like Love, Death and Robots or something, the human brain is not really supposed to be in that environment, so you're supposed to go to sleep in cryostasis, and they don't get in the pods in time, and so they survive the light speed travel, but also they see really weird shit. They have hallucinations. They start like coughing up blood, and like things get really weird. So maybe it's something like that, that the ethereal transmission chakra winds up being a bit of a shield in the same way that the cryopods are. Like it just helps their body insulate in some way. But it's still really fucking fast, and they're still like gonna need to wall up against that. Right. So let's see. Naruto throwing it back at the speed of light. Yeah, exactly. The light speed rump shaker. Um, I regret saying that out loud. Ryoman says Tsunade is far more durable, or is more durable than Prime Madara. Um, with I find that difficult to believe if we're incorporating the Susanoo. Without the Susanoo, maybe I could be convinced of that potentially. Especially if she's like she has her like 100 healings active and she's like going all out, just like concentrating her chakra into her fist like Sakura does. Are you just talking about like durability itself? Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, I wonder if her like part of her durability is also the survivability aspect of her being able to regenerate from harm. But I'm kind of the belief anyway that characters are like they're all human beings at the end of the day, and they're just enhancing themselves with chakra. So, um, you know, I think that there's a way of getting her base durability up there. But once we start talking about shit like the Susanoo, then I don't know. That's a little bit spicier. Saria says, rumor has it that the new Crash Bandicoot game will be made by Iron Galaxy. Oh yeah, I know them. After they ruined Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, here's another 20 years without Crash. Oh man, I hope that they pull it off. Maybe this particular franchise will be something that they're more comfortable with, and they'll be able to like find their niche better. Ryoman says, honestly, I think your argument would be much stronger than faster than light scales for Naruto if it didn't factor my certain arguments for this instance not being speed limitation upscales durability of the objects. Yeah, I admit, I think that this is like, to me, this is like a big fucking fat red question mark. This is not a, and therefore, oh, wait a second, I think I missed a, fuck you, YouTube. YouTube, removed a message from Dr. Strangle. I did not ignore it. I didn't see it. I'm now seeing it. If someone commissioned me to do a nose tier list, I would assume there's some kind of kink stuff and I get charged stuff. Yeah, that would usually be a correct assumption. And hey, like, doesn't hurt to ask for more for that stuff. I would have said a feet tier list, but I guarantee that there is probably a tier list out there ranking other people's feet tier lists for everything, but for Naruto specifically. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you think, Ryoman. This to me is basically me saying like, okay, look, the series itself only ever mentions this once, and this is what it says. So I think if you're going to make light speed arguments, you need to take this into account. And as far as I can tell, this throws enough of a question mark into the whole discussion. It makes things ambiguous enough that I think it like weakens some of those arguments, but I don't think this is like a definitive and therefore no characters in Naruto are light speed. I will say that I don't think any of the, like I said before, I don't think any of this really debunks Sage of Six Paths level characters being the speed of light. Like, this doesn't apply to Kaguya, because Kaguya just has insanely higher levels of chakra. This doesn't really apply to SOSP, Naruto, or Sasuke, or to either of the Jubi Jinchuriki, etc., right? Because I just think they have high enough durability that it doesn't matter. Now, that doesn't mean they get a free pass, and I do think that they do go at the speed of light. I just think that me saying characters below Tsunade durability are not moving at the speed of light without suffering injury obviously just doesn't apply there. So it's like, if I were to try to use this as a debunk, this only goes so far, and then there's more arguments we can have. So right, like, if I were in a debate and it were going on for, or how can I phrase this, if somebody wants to believe that Naruto characters are the speed of light and they use Madara's light Fang, I'm probably not going to be too mad about that. I'm not going to agree, but I'm not going to like yell and scream and cry. But if somebody uses the Water Fang bullet, I am. And those two things are very different. And this is kind of like a line in the sand between those two things. If those two claims are at opposite ends of the spectrum, this is the dividing line right in the middle. That is like the divider of acceptability, if that makes sense. I hope that seems fair. Anyway, let's see. But yeah, let me know what those arguments are. I'd be very curious to hear them. The bonds, Naruto, the broken bonds for the Xbox 3 and also 6 and 0. I've never actually played that, but I've heard good things. I did watch the movie Bonds, Naruto the movie Bonds. Have you seen that, Saria? Because I think you'd enjoy it. I don't know why, but like a couple of the characters and fights in it had big Saria energy from what I remember. But I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it yet. So, and this is one of the things. Like again, I still just fucking hate Road to Ninja. um, and so I'm going to argue that it shouldn't be included in power scaling discussions. But at the same time, as I've watched a bunch of the other movies, I'm like, shit, man, these are fun. These characters are fun. These feats are fun. I feel like overall they're still portraying characters consistently. So I wish people would use them. Like I wish people would argue less about what is or isn't canon, and as long and focus more on whether or not the stuff being portrayed is consistent. And as long as it is, just use it. Which I think is what people are saying about the data books. But then that's a whole fucking complicated thing. But anyway, yeah, like Naruto uses a fucking moon Rasengan. Like Naruto fights like a demon dragon thing. Um, Naruto um, accidentally agrees to become a dad, and I'll just leave it at that. And not with Hinata either. But yeah, there's some fun things in there. Let's see. Maybe they're getting spatially dilated, and then when they become normal again, they aren't put rightly together and they suffer damage. Yeah, I like that. Like different parts of them are arriving at different points basically, and so their bodies are almost like getting stretched and disassociated. Ugh, that sounds fucking like a horror movie. Shit, I love it. Saria says they should just do what Samus does when she needs to travel fast. Enter the fourth dimension, travel a few minutes, drop back down to the third dimension. Yeah. I think so. I tried to talk about some of that stuff with like a while ago in the multiversal conversations. That actually makes sense. Like there, yeah, yes, and I think you helped me better understand that at the time. So I like that idea. And that I honestly kind of wish that Kishimoto had spent more time delving into actual space-time manipulation. The stuff that we get, the stuff that we get that is referred to as space-time ninjutsu is basically just like move person from here to there, or move big frog from here to there, or go into like little private treehouse, like Kamui, and then pop out again. Right, for the most part. Obviously, there's stuff like Yomotsu Hirosaka, but that's basically it. There's nothing like you're describing where there's a massive manipulation of the space-time continuum. Although I would genuinely be curious to know if anybody here has thoughts on what the fuck those cracks in space-time are. That, well, people call them cracks in space-time, but like Toneri is hanging out on the moon and he's talking about the Otsutsuki coming, and then like these silvery white glass-looking cracks appear in the air, quote unquote. There's no air on the moon, I guess, but whatever. And then he grabs them and shatters them, and that seems to take a lot out of him because I think he coughs up blood at one point too. And so, what I've heard people say is that should be considered towards universal scaling because it's a crack in space-time across the entire universe or something. And then he's pushing back against that. My interpretation was that was just like Uroshiki trying to get through. Like he's trying to like create a portal and open up and like come on through, and Toneri's just pushing him back, which I guess is like a crack in space time, but it's a crack in space time in the same way that like the Yomotsu Hirosaka is, right? It just kind of like it's creating a portal between these two locations for faster travel. But I don't know. I haven't been able to find any solid information on it one way or the other. So let me know what you think. Lune for 8. Lune Fate. Yeah, you've not so subtly revealed something about yourself over the past few Claire Obscure streams, Saria, but hey, I'm not gonna judge. Ryoman says Susano can be more durable than Tsunade, but I meant just moderate. Yeah, okay. I think I understand. Ryoman says, I will tell you my arguments on DM because I don't like to type a lot on mobile. Yeah, no problem. I fucking hate texting. Like, that's, I'm really bad at it, so it's constantly making typos and I have to go correct myself. So yeah, no problem at all. No rush. Just curious what you think in the long term. Is Bonds the one with Sasuke? Yeah, it is. Fuck, why am I stuttering so much tonight? God damn. If so, I haven't seen it because early Shippuden was overhyping Sasuke so much and I hated it. Yes, I do not like Sasuke. Yeah, I don't really like him that much either. I like him in part 1 quite a bit, and then he just like, by the end when he gets to that part in the end of the series where he's like, what I'm touting is revolution. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, cool, you're doing the pain thing again. Good job. You're a few hundred chapters too late, buddy. This is not impressive. You know what I mean? I think that there's parts about his character that I do enjoy, but he's just so self-righteous and so annoying, and like I get where it comes from. I think his journey is compelling and he has good moments, but I don't know, I just don't like spending time with him, you know. You know what I mean? But yeah, Bonds is the one with Sasuke. It's pretty good. It I will say, like, the first part of the movie is like a 7 out of 10. The second act of the movie is like a 9 out of 10, and then the last act of the movie, which is maybe 20% of the movie, is like a 2. It's just like once they wrap up the main shit that they have to do, then there's this whole like section that is extremely annoying. But then it's over, and overall it's still worth the watch. But anyway, um, let's see. Sasuke's been understood. Boring character mostly. Yep. Sometimes cracks in space are just cracks in space. Doesn't have an energy value, and it's not a scalable feat. Okay, cool. Yeah, that actually puts it into perspective a bit. I appreciate that. Roman says, I like Sasuke in part 1 too. Yep, we agree. I like Sasuke in part 1, Sasaria and Boruto and everything in between. I'm like, yeah, yep. I mean, I was just reading part of the like the Sakura novel, and it just kind of reinforced how not fucking there at all he is in early Boruto. But then, like in Two Blue Vortex, his relationship with Boruto, especially like leading up to that, he's okay. Okay, so that's really the end of my rant about the Heavenly Transmission Jutsu. I just think it's important to underscore this because it is the one example that we do have of specifically a light speed statement in Naruto. And again, I don't think it's like a universal debunk or anything like that, but I do think it's like you should. I guess I get a little irritated because people will take parts of this and then they will say these parts are the ones that support the lightspeed argument, and then somebody will be like, well, what about these, and these? And they'll be like, oh no, you know, we can just ignore that because X, Y, or Z. And I'll explain what I mean by that in more detail later, but just so everybody kind of knows, like, this is where this is coming from, this is how this works, and then we can kind of use that information going forward. I do want to see if there's anything else in the did I already have it? Oh yes, Heavenly Transfer. So it looks like we don't really get. I mean, this does look like lightning, though. I'll just say that. Like, Hero Transmission, Object Teleportation Jutsu, Classification Jutsu. Yeah, so we don't get any information about whether or not it's Sorry, I'm just kind of blanking a little bit here. I was looking to see if there was like a release, like it was mentioned to have lightning release or anything like that. I would be curious to see its implementation in Storm 3, but we don't have to worry about that right now. Let me just see. So Tensou no Jutsu. Oh, it's a mini jutsu. Oh yeah, let's just see what it says here. Heavenly Transfer Technique. It's a technique of Mabui's that instantaneously transfers something at the speed of light. So again, like, it's kind of unfortunate that it says instantaneously transfer something and then at the speed of light, right? There's already a contradiction there. The high-speed transmission of human beings is also possible, but since the body can't since the body can't endure the overly fast movement, the target of the technique needs a sturdy body. So if we're gonna take the Databook statements at face value anyway, right? Like, I don't necessarily think we should do, as you very well know. But if we are, and people do, then this is something that I don't really see people mention, right? Is that, again, since the body can't endure the overly fast movement, right? It's the movement itself. Again, it's the speed of the movement itself. It's too fast for the body to keep up. How exactly, why exactly, what's going on under the I don't need avocados, thank you. Jesus. But, you know, I think it's pretty clear that it's the speed itself. And I don't think that it's dismissible by just saying, oh, it's just movement speed and not combat speed. Sorry, says they take these parts of the argument, me looking at YouTubers who would show panels but immediately fade into some other image to avoid yeah, it's like, I think we should put out a PSA that YouTube put in this thing a little while ago where you can actually stop the video and go frame by frame and even just like stop it and leave it there. Like, it doesn't just keep playing on its own. I feel like some of these people don't realize that you can actually like stop the video and look at it for longer than you would normally if it just plays. And it's just, not to be unfair to them, like they're just operating with incomplete information, but we should let them know, help them out a little bit. Yes, Rioman, you precogged me. You are absolutely right. Databook also says Light Fang cannot be dodged. So let's use that as a segue to get into the Light Fang argument. So when I watched Six's video, when I watched TG's recent video, when I watched, who was it? I think Key's video. Like, I saw a few videos on this subject recently, and one of the things that people kept saying in those videos is something along the lines of, okay, now I'm going to get to the one that everybody already agrees is the speed of light. If for some reason people seem to have, like, I think Six said something like, even the skeptics agree on this one. So, for some reason, the Light Fang, or Storm Fang, whatever the fuck it's called, that Madara uses, people seem to have kind of, like, made a truce on this as being the one that we're all just going to agree on as being objectively light speed, which is weird to me. But let's go ahead and take a look at what happens. So, this jutsu happens in fucking chapter 674. And this is after Madara has become the Jubi Jinchuriki, and he has one Rinnegan, but he hasn't gotten the second one yet. So, Madara uses a Shadow-style Thunder Blast, so he's, like, using this lightning-based attack, and the lightning... So this is something that you can be like, look at this and be like, okay, well, maybe Naruto's lightning speed here, right? Because this is clearly... I mean, like, obviously, it's still a lightning jutsu. It's still using, like... It's actually, like, Shadow-style, right? So it is technically not even, like, literally electricity. It is a shadow attack, whatever that means. But, I mean, it seems to me to be very clearly coded as lightning, and you see, like, the leaders kind of forking out and stuff like that. So if you wanted to look for a feat of Naruto being the speed of lightning, here's a decent example, right? Like, he throws the fucking chakra rod at it and intercepts it, and kind of literally, like, he literally uses it as a lightning rod. So, I mean... I don't even want these characters to be the speed of lightning, but whatever. Like, here's an argument for it. I have to admit, right? Here it is. So anyway, Sasuke's messing around with this, teleports himself, and Naruto charges at jumps and is about to do this jump slash overhead attack on Madara. Madara says limbo, and it clearly affects Naruto. And seems to hold him in place, too. Like, he hits against something, there's a thick... And he's... Yeah, so, like, he's held in place, he like, hits this thing. He's like, he did it again. And you can see he's straining and he's pushing against some force that he's trying to circumvent, right? Now, this happens. This, right? Sage Art, Storm-style Fang of Light. And Naruto says, whoa, and dodges it. And then we move on. And that's it. That's all we see. That's literally it. This is the thing that people say is the speed of light. And it's kind of hard to tell what the fuck is going on here. What I can see is that Naruto has apparently hit something, because this to me looks like he's making an impact with something solid. I'm guessing this is the Limbo clone. I don't know for sure. Maybe that he's being restrained from behind or something, but I think he's impacted it. He's in midair. And then Madara looks like probably what he did is he because you see, like, these motion lines going this way, and, like, his face is twisted that way, and you see these motion lines over here, and then you also see, like, the distorting or the curving of this attack is over here. So what it looks like, and then his cheek is kind of like concave here as well. What it looks like to me is that Madara was looking at Naruto, and he, like, started to spit out the light at him, maybe from, like, over here, and then did a swoosh like that, like a sweep. And then Naruto saw the sweep coming, and then he was able to kind of bend and dodge out of the way. Like, it severed the chakra rod, but it didn't sever, oh yeah, and it actually, like, cut off a little bit of Naruto's chakra as well. So you can kind of see, I don't know if these are actually, like, physically part of his headband, or if they're just, like, a projection of his chakra or whatever, or his hair or whatnot, but it like severs these little chakra blobs, and he goes, whoa. Yeah. So That being said, I do want to take a second and look at the anime because I think I was looking at this earlier. And oh, Malachi's on, cool. Let's see. Madara, Storm, Fang, right? This one, okay. It's gonna be probably loud, right? Actually, I might get copyright struck again. So fucking, my other video got a copyright thing on it, and it's really annoying. So I'm just gonna like bring this down a little bit. So let's just tab over here, and we're gonna go frame by frame and see what happens. Okay. So here's Madara. Did it again. He inhales, okay, sage art, makes his little puckered up lips, and then he spits out, forward, 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 and now he's fully extended forward, and then he spits the light out. And we get 1 frame, 2 frames, okay? So his hair is settling, and while his hair settles, the light comes out, and it's already crossed that amount of distance, okay? And then it actually gets thinner. Naruto is looking straight at it. Looks like it's coming straight for him. He sees it coming towards him. He starts to back up, okay? And then this happens very quickly. Like, he backs up, it pierces through the rod, and Naruto dodges. We actually see it cut. You don't really see it cut his, like, headband thing. It's the ties of his headband. Then Madara brings the beam down a little bit, and Naruto goes further down, ducks his head, and then we have a couple of frames like that, and then Madara like is on the other side. So it does kind of seem like, if you take the anime, and I don't have a problem with that, he's like spitting forward, and then Naruto kind of like ducks and moves to the side, and then Madara sweeps his head to the side as well. Okay, so that's just the context of what's actually happening during the fight. I will say, obviously, like, if it is moving at the speed of light, and Naruto sees this coming, and he reacts to it and gets out of the way, then that's a speed of light feat, right? Like, that's a speed of light reaction, like perception, that's a speed of light dodge. Okay, that's only fair to say. That being said, I previously, just going based off of the manga, one way to debunk this is to say that, like, Madara had to actually swing his head, and so maybe the light projecting from his mouth is technically moving at the speed of light, but Madara swinging his head is still not the speed of light. So as long as Naruto is reacting to Madara swinging his head and not the light itself, then, you know, it doesn't really matter how fast the light beam is going, because Naruto's really just reacting to Madara's own personal speed. And based off of the manga, I think that there's enough ambiguity there to say, yes, we can't really know for sure if it was Madara's body or Madara's jutsu itself that was being reacted to, so I wouldn't use this for scaling. But even though it quote-unquote hurts my argument, I will say that the anime seems to make it very clear that, like, Madara is shooting forward and then swiping to try to catch up with Naruto. Now, what you could say is that, like, well, isn't it kind of weird that Madara, if he's moving at the speed of light and he has the speed of light jutsu, if Naruto dodges at the speed of light, then why isn't blah blah blah? But then, like, okay, so Naruto is just faster enough than the speed of light to dodge this, and Madara, in this moment, he's faster than Madara. Madara doesn't manage to catch up, blah blah blah. You can go back and forth all fucking day. Point is, if he dodged the light beam and it's a real beam of light, then he dodged the light beam, end of story, right? So that is, I think, why people are more willing to concede on this particular point. And I get it. I get where people are coming from. I have a contention with it, but I think it's a stronger argument. That being said, let me catch up on chat before I keep fucking rambling here. Let's see. Databook also says life. Yep, you mentioned that. Ryomen says, I know Naruto dodged it, but you can argue he didn't directly dodge it, but dodged Madara. Yeah, sorry. I was just saying what you already said. You got there before I did. So, well done. You anticipated what I was going to say. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I said, have you seen the Sage Mode Goku costume and the Turtle Hermit Gi Naruto costume? I have not, but I think that would be actually really cool to see. Goku's was in the game Battle of Z for Naruto with Storm 3. Oh, that's really awesome. I love that there's that crossover. Yeah. Naruto says, whoa, Crash Bandicoot. Whoa! He stole my whole flow. It was really weird. Yeah, I loved that meme when it was like the low polygon Crash going. Well, I adore that. I hope it sees a resurgence whenever the new game comes out. Saria says, I am currently also working on a comparison between Daenerys Targaryen and Eldegard von um, El Edelgard von. I got this. Hang on. Fuck. I got this. Edelgard von Hresvelg. Hresvelg? Edelgard von Hresvelg. Hresvelg. Edelgard von. I'm moving on. So that'll probably end up being my next video when I'm done writing. Good. I can't wait to see it. Good luck. Good. Yes. Okay. Good. Yes. Realman says, so yeah, not contradicting statement. So comp Naruto caps below light speed. Yeah. I think if you're looking for the strongest light speed Naruto argument that's just like in a vacuum, like in and of itself, the argumentation here is like this thing is called Fang of Light, and therefore, and it's described as being a light speed jutsu, and Naruto sees it and perceives it and dodges out of the way. Therefore, Naruto's light speed here, or possibly faster than light, then yes, that logic follows. However, there's a couple of things that I do want to bring up. First of all, let's look at the data book, because this says it's a Fang of Light. Okay, but that's the technique's name. You can give a technique a name that doesn't literally describe what it does. And I know, yes, there are some techniques like the Rasengan that literally mean like chakra whirl sphere something, and Odama Rasengan, which means big ball ass Rasengan. But there are others like Chidori, which mean 1,000 birds. And Chidori is called 1,000 birds because it sounds like 1,000 birds, not because it's made of 1,000 birds, not because it literally summons 1,000 birds to the battlefield, right? And we can go through a bunch of examples of non-literal names in Naruto. But let's just see what the data book says about this particular jutsu, okay? Is it here actually? Oh, this one there. Okay. There's a lot of, hang on. Okay. So we don't actually get that much information on this. Let's just read this. Sage Art, Storm Release, Light Fang, Senpo Ranton Koga. Ninjutsu, Senjutsu, okay. A ninjutsu used by those who gain the six paths power. They emit a beam of light to bisect the enemy. Like a sharp and pointed fang, it cuts all things with the speed of light, making it impossible for the enemy to evade even one swing. So, like Ryomen was saying before, we have some issues if we take this literally, right? First of all, the most glaring one is that it says making it impossible for the enemy to evade even one swing, which is literally what Naruto does. So, again, is it reasonable to take literally for granted at face value and assume this statement is true when one of the two sentences in its description contains something that is objectively and completely false? If if I'm gonna use a slightly different example, right? Like if I give you a peanut butter and sand sandwich, and the sandwich is 50% peanut butter and 50% sand, and I hand it to you and I say, this is a peanut butter sandwich, please enjoy this peanut butter sandwich, and you open it up and you're like, half of this shit is sand, would you accept it from me if I said, no, it's a peanut butter sandwich, go ahead and eat it? And would you then eat it? I hope not. I hope the answer is no. I would not eat it, right? Half of this is a lie. Or at least like half of the sentence contains a lie. That's in here, right? A ninjutsu used by those who gain the six paths power. Okay, well, it doesn't even have a user listed here, but I think I've seen Madara listed as the only user. So, question mark, is it actually something that every six paths user can use? Maybe it is. They emit a beam of light to bisect the enemy. Okay, so this is weird as well. Was Madara's purpose specifically to bisect Naruto? Was he specifically trying to cut him in half? Or was he just trying to pierce him, damage him, or something like that? Does it have to be emitted to bisect the enemy? And then finally, like a sharp and pointed fang, it cuts all things. Are we supposed to accept this at face value? Are we supposed to accept that this technique has universal AP? I mean, it does cut the chakra rod staff, right? And it's true that chakra rod staff is a six paths tool, but those things can be broken as well, right? They're not like, they don't have infinite durability. So is this enough to say that it can clash with all things? Think about it this way. If Madara missed with that attack and continued moving on and like moved his cheek, or moved his head to point towards the earth, would it have cut the earth in half? Are we willing to believe that this attack would have simply cut the earth in half because it says here that it cuts all things with the speed of light? Also, here's another thing. Cutting all things with the speed of light. And this is where we get back to the like Madara, reacting to Madara versus reacting to Madara's jutsu. Notice that it doesn't actually say that the beam itself fires at the speed of light. It's described as a beam of light. True, it's described that way. But it says it cuts all things at the speed of light. So cutting something at light speed and moving at light speed are two different things. So now we have a potential contradiction. Which is it? Does it, well, I guess it's not necessarily a contradiction. It could move at the speed of light and also cut things at the speed of light, right? Those aren't mutually exclusive, but they are two separate things. And given that we also have this final ambiguity here, this final contradiction, it makes me wonder how much of this is meant to be taken literally and how much of this is supposed to be hyperbolic. And considering the context of the databooks overall, with how much hyperbole there is in the databooks overall, I don't think that we should take this literally. I don't think this is a reliable statement, and I don't think we should be basing our view of the light speed scaling in the series based off of something like this. It's too tenuous. It's too, too shaky. It just doesn't work for me. Not to mention that one final point is that, like, again, this is storm release, so it is a sage technique, but when it's describing this as being, like, emitting a beam of light, to me, this reminds me of saying that, like, you know, a Jedi Knight is using a lightsaber, and a lightsaber is just a beam of light, so the Jedi attacks at the speed of light. It can be a beam of light, you can describe it that way, but still not work, like, literally project forward at the speed of light. And I know that sounds contradictory, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the description of things as being quote-unquote light or having light properties in fictional media doesn't always correlate with those things themselves moving at the speed of light. Like, laser guns, for example, fire energy beams, but just because they're called laser guns doesn't mean that they are actually firing those energy beams at the speed of light. Like, the projectiles themselves don't necessarily move at the speed of light. And I think you'll find that to be true of any number of fictional universes, like sci-fi universes, where energy blasts are fired. Sometimes they are like beams of photons or whatever that are, you know, very clearly the speed of light, but a lot of times there are these bursts, these blasts or whatever, that aren't moving at the speed of light. They're more just like railgun rounds or something like that, right? So, I don't know. I just think it's worth considering that there's ambiguity here, and the extent to which there's ambiguity makes me very skeptical and hesitant to want to use this. Just to be thorough, let's take a look at what the wiki says. The user infuses storm release with senjutsu chakra to fire a sharp, thin stream of light from their mouth. It is powerful enough to cut clean through a truth-seeking ball as it travels at the speed of light. It is described as being impossible to dodge. Okay. Well, again, it kind of says the same thing. Travels at the speed of light, impossible to dodge. So that's another thing too. Like, if you were to take that databook statement as literally as possible, that would be the databook saying, hey guys, things that are the speed of light can't be dodged. In which case we would have an upper limit for speed in the series. So if we do accept everything in the databooks at face value, or even if we do accept that statement at face value, then we would have to accept the characters can't move faster than the speed of light, because that's what it says. But obviously the Naruto does. Okay, so Naruto can, but nobody else can. So at a certain point, that statement just breaks down. Wherever you take it, whichever direction you go, at a certain point you're going to run up against a fucking wall with that statement, and you're just not going to be able to use it all. And now comes the question of how do we pick and choose the best way to use the data, right, without being like shifting goalposts or whatever. Okay, so those were the two main things I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna take a look here. Talk about Uroshiki a little bit, but I don't know. We talked about him a lot during the moon shit and the multiversal shit. So I don't really. I'm gonna talk about him more next week or the week after. Suffice to say, for Urashiki, we have this claim that he's moving at like many times faster than the speed of light, because he travels between like from the Cancer constellation to where we are. Feel free to go check out my video on him from a few months ago. I don't agree with that, because I think what Tonari is saying when he says what is it? Kishuku ni hokiboshi ga haita is what he says, which means that the comet has entered the constellation. Yes, but he says that as he watches a shooting star pass in front of the constellation and then out of it. And so, like, it seems pretty clear to me that he's like stargazing and he sees a comet fly overhead, and then he's like, "Oh shit! Like the comet went through this constellation. I guess it's time for this other shit to happen." That's not Tonari, because it's going like over him and away from him, not towards him. So, or sorry, it's not Urashiki who's doing that. It's Tonari who says that and who's observing this, and he's not saying that it's Urashiki who is the comet. He's saying, "I just saw a comet," and then also later Urashiki is going to show up. So, you can talk more about that if you want, but I think we kind of covered that. The lariat as well, it's just another data book thing. Like, the data book says that the lariat is near the speed of light, but we've talked about the data books quite extensively. I think that's pretty much it. I think that, Eve Trans, I think that we're going to need to maybe look at a couple other random things from Boruto that I could point out, and then start talking about Key's video if we have time. Let me check on chat real quick. Is the speed, if the speed, fuck, why is it so hard to talk sometimes? Holy shit. Ryomen says, so yeah, not contradicted. Yep. Sorry, it says big balls Rasengan. Yeah. Big palde Rasengan. Dr. Strangle says, if the speed of the swing of the light fang is relative to the speed of propagation of the beam, then we would see a relative bending in the beam, even though it is at all points moving in a straight line. Imagine water coming out of a hose and then moving the hose. Okay, I'm picturing that. Yeah, I see. Like, you would see the arc of it like that. So, you think it's more like a fucking lightsaber then, that he like projects the beam forward and then it kind of stops, and then it's like this sort of solid beam, like almost like a laser sword, and then he swipes his head with it, and then it's kind of gone. So it's not actually like a projectile. It's more just like it has a limited range, and then he swings it around, something like that. Zarya says, "Are you trying to tell me Kim Possible?" And then it's like rigid, right? It's not. Yeah, it's not like a stream that he's emitting. It's like a rigid object that he then moves around. Are you trying to tell me Kim Possible is in Fast and Late? Well, judging by her name, it seems that it is verbatim stated that Kim Possible is impossible. But she exists nonetheless. So she is an existing contradiction. Her existence in and of itself is in defiance of the limitations of fictional constraints, therefore she is boundless. So, I mean, she could be as fast as she wants, as far as I'm concerned. Now you're thinking like a power scaler. Okay. So, yeah, let me, I'm not going to take a break exactly. I'm still going to be here, but I'm going to look through my folder of notes real quick. So I'm going to be quiet for like 1 or 2 minutes, and I'm going to eat a tiny piece of the snack, and then I will see about sharing some stuff. So bear with me for like 2 minutes. Sorry for the rattling noises. I know that bothers some people. Okay, let's see. Right, light speed folder. Okay, maybe I'll just. So this is less organized, as I don't really feel the need to be as precise with it. So let me try this and see how it works. Can I do 006? Where are you? How does that look? Looks okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through my folder of random Naruto and Boruto light speeding stuff. It's going to be kind of disorganized, but you'll see what I mean, like the stuff that I'm curious about. Just random thoughts. So I think I included this from TBV because Boruto is like leaving the village, but Sumire is able to like watch him go, and so my thinking here was like, okay, well, Boruto's off somewhere in a hurry, but he's still like they're still able to kind of like watch him and perceive him go while he's going off into the distance. If he's really moving at the speed of light, like first of all, wouldn't that create a shockwave? Like, okay, so here's the thing, right? People will say, okay, characters aren't moving at the speed of light, or sorry, I'll be like, wouldn't characters be creating massive shockwaves if they were moving at the speed of light? And then the response that I'll get from that will be like, well, you can't apply real world physics to a fictional universe. True. But at the same time, like Kishi or Ikemoto did actually take the time to make this little smoke plume that indicates that there is an amount of pressure and force that's being generated when Boruto launches off the ground. So again, like I guess I'm just confused. Like so he's not just like ghosting off the ground. He's launching himself and beginning to fly away. But despite the fact that there is still air and it's still like clearly like pressing up against his cloak because his cloak's not falling down to the ground, it's like pushing his hair back and stuff like that, and he's making a sound effect, he just sort of conveniently isn't showing any of the signs of light speed travel. It's just a little weird, but maybe he hasn't fully accelerated there yet. Right? I don't think that there's anything here that specifically I think this was just showing that like so Boruto is flying away from the village, and he's able to do so while still having a conversation, apparently in real time with Shikamaru. Like they're just talking, right? Mentally, yeah, but throughout the course of that conversation, he doesn't get across the entire like fucking world or whatever. The same thing with these guys, right? Like they're flying across the village. They don't have to be flying at the speed of light necessarily, but they are, you know, I have to go back and double check the context, but I think when I say this, I was like, there's some kind of narrative reason why they should be at least like skating, you know what I mean? Like at least going pretty quickly. There's an urgency to it. We don't see any real signs of light speed travel here. So I start to ask myself, like, yeah, here we go. So Ada pinpointed Boruto's location. So they need to urgently get to his location before he like rushes away. It's really important that they get to him. It's a big deal. They don't want him to get away, and they're right outside the village, right? They can see the village in the distance. They're flying towards it. This would be a perfect time to be able to use light speed movement, right? If only they could get there in a fraction of a second, but they can't, or they choose not to. So it's like, okay, if they can actually move at the speed of light, and this is exactly the situation where they need to move as quickly as possible, but they don't show any signs of moving at the speed of light, and these are Boruto era characters, then, you know, does that really make sense? So I don't think there's anything specific here. I think these are just random things that I included as notes, but it's just easier to show the folder as opposed to like going through, like dragging every single one over. I think this was just to show the elapsing of time. Here's another example of another character flying. This is Jura going towards Master Konohamaru. They're still in the desert, so they should be within the same general area within the land of sand, right? If, you know, he needs to get there quickly, he doesn't seem to be moving at the speed of light. Saying. And none of these examples individually are a deal breaker or anything like that. None of them are any sort of proof that there is no light speed travel. But I guess why I'm including this is just to say, like, as you're going through the village, as you're going through the series on your own, pay attention to any instances you can find of characters needing to move in a hurry and having like a very strong incentive to be moving quickly, and then see if they actually move at the speed of light in that situation. Especially since people will be like, okay, well, characters, you know, sometimes people will argue that faster than light movement is reasonable, but faster than light combat speed is not reasonable. And if that's the case, if that's your perspective, then think about situations in which characters should be able to move at the speed of light, but then consistently don't show speed of light travel, even though it would make perfect sense for them to be using it, right? It seems to imply, if you add all that shit up, that they just don't have that ability. So I think this is, I forget what this is, that Boruto coming back to the village, okay? Oh no, this is Delta coming in, right? So Delta's coming into the village, and they're able to perceive her, track her. Like, okay, so Delta is coming in. She's already like inside the village, and while she's inside the village and traveling across it, you know, they verify her signature. They talk about it, and they figure out what they're going to do, and they move to another location. So, I mean, I guess Delta just didn't need to move at the speed of light then. Okay, well, that's another instance. I get fine, right? Here is Naruto inside the village. I think Ishiki is inside the village as well. This is Ishiki, right? Yeah. And then other people are being injured, they're being harmed, and here is Naruto, who again, he supposedly is Lightspeed as a kid. He needs to get his ass across the village as soon as possible, and physics doesn't work the same way in Naruto, right? So he should just be able to go there, but he's not. Like he doesn't get there at the speed of light. He's talking to someone. He's having a conversation, or like he's hearing other people's voices in his head in real time. Unless there's some kind of evidence that like conversations can be sped up in your mind with chakra or something, then he's just like moving at the rate of this conversation, even though people are potentially getting killed. See, look at him go. He catches up with Ishiki mid along the way. Obviously pretty important. I don't know why I put this here. I just thought it was pretty cool. Similar thing over here, right? So this is in, all that other stuff was in TBV. This is in like base Boruto, so to speak. So now, again, Boruto has to find him. It's really important that he finds him. This is in chapter 62, and he's searching for him. Not sure if he's using the speed of light there either. Sorry, this is way out of organization because I just saved all the stuff in the same place from TBV and from Boruto, and so sometimes the chapters are kind of mixed up. They're searching for him. They're searching a few dozen clicks around the village. I forget how long a click is. Let me check. I had this written down. Okay, how far is a click? I think it's like 20 kilometers, right? There's a click. Is it literally just a kilometer? What the hell? A click is 1 kilometer. Oh, I thought it was like 20. I guess confused. Okay, so basically what Naruto is saying, like, look at so he's saying we need to search an area that is a few dozen kilometers around the village, including using sensory abilities to search through it. And all these characters who should have been Lightspeed like decades ago can't search an area that is a couple of dozen kilometers in area within a few seconds. Like, they just, an entire village full of people, including the Hokage, and including people with sensory, and including like people with Byakugan and shit like that, and people who should be relative to Lightspeed. None of them can search a 12, like let's just say like a 50 kilometer square area within a fucking few seconds. So they're either not the speed of light, or they're not trying to use the speed of light. But why wouldn't they be? They really need to. So okay, here we go. So they find Boruto, and they finally find him. Naruto uses Sage Mode. So here's a feat for Naruto. Sage Mode has a range of at least 40 clicks, so 40 kilometers. And so they need to get 40 kilometers away. And they need to get there as soon as possible. And this is Sage Mode Hokage Naruto needs to get 40 kilometers. Okay? So I'm going to just do a little back of the napkin math, right? So how long does it take to go 40 kilometers at the speed of light? Let's see if ChatGPT will help me out. Not interested. 0.000133 seconds. So not even a tenth, not even a 100th, not even a 1,000th of a second. That's all it would take. Naruto would only need to take a 1,000th of a second to get to Boruto's location. Okay? And this is a critical moment. It would only take him a 1,000th of a second to get there if he could move at the speed of light. Okay. And he doesn't. Because he's already moving and he's still talking to Shikamaru. So he just doesn't do it. His child is in danger. And he just needs to travel at the speed of light for a fraction of a second. And he doesn't do it. Why? Oh, I guess this time he just didn't really need to. He just didn't really feel it. He wasn't in the mood. Or he can't do it in the first place. He finally gets there. Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like if you read this chapter, there's a whole bunch of shit that goes down. Characters have conversations, characters kick each other, Damon is there for some reason. Like Boruto and Kawaki are going at it, like Momoshiki's active, I think. And so all of this shit happens before Naruto gets there. It's not even just like it takes him a few seconds. It takes him minutes. It takes him multiple minutes. And it takes Shikamaru multiple minutes as well to go these 40 kilometers. So let me just like really emphasize this for clarity. And maybe like I'll clip this too. In Boruto, it takes Hokage Sage Mode Naruto multiple minutes to cross 40 kilometers in a critical moment where he's trying to save his son and his adopted son. Moving, like, and you're telling me that he can move at the speed of light. No, it doesn't make any sense. The only thing I would accept about this is that, like, Boruto retconned them and like massively downscaled their speed. Like Ikemoto was like, they got way too strong in the war. These motherfuckers need to be brought down a peg and just nerf the shit out of them. In which case, you know, I'd appreciate some evidence for that. But anyway, let me check chat real quick. Nothing is impossible for a possible. Kim Possible's dead, yeah. Damon versus DMS Obito. Oof. I don't know. Like, Damon is weird because he's got hacks, right? That's basically what his whole deal is. If you demonstrate any sort of killing intent to him whatsoever, then he reflects that back onto you. What I will say about Obito is that I wonder if he would be able to use Kamui in a way that didn't imply killing intent. Like, if his intention was just to bring Damon into the Kamui dimension and not to harm him specifically, then could he win via BFR battlefield removal? By essentially just like this. Like, if he somehow managed to get himself to Damon and touch him and then bring himself into the Kamui dimension, then technically he wouldn't be intending to harm Damon. He would just be intending to bring himself into the Kamui dimension, and that would like happen to affect Damon as well, and then he could just leave him there to starve or something like that. Genjutsu. I wonder if Genjutsu would work. Has anybody tried to use Genjutsu on Damon? I feel like that would be the way to do it. Or like knocking him out with a poison gas or something like that. But yeah, it's tricky. I feel like the way to take out Damon is going to be like somebody has to control somebody, like an Edo Tensei, or like put somebody under a Genjutsu or whatever, and so that like the person who attacks Damon has to be not in control of their own actions or something like that, right? Like if somebody is like remote controlling a puppet and the puppet attacks Damon, maybe because it's the puppet. Well, he'd probably pick up on the intentions of the person wielding the puppet, though, is the thing. So yeah, I don't know. He's a real pain in the ass to deal with. Sorry says maybe it's a Dragon Ball thing. Sometimes physics apply, sometimes not. Yeah, Dragon Ball, I think they kind of bend the rules to however they need to be at any given time. Like I feel like that's been my experience with the series, which is fine. Like, again, the authors don't have to follow the rules of physics. They can do whatever they want with their universes, right? Kind of like Marvel and DC and Boom Studios, Power Rangers. Man, I haven't thought about Power Rangers in a long time. I used to be obsessed with that show as a kid. Sometimes physics applies, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, that's fair. Realman asks, 7th Gate guy versus fused Momoshiki guy mock sendouts. Well, that's the thing. I don't think... I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't think Momo has great taijutsu feats. I mean, he's taking attacks both from Sasuke and Naruto. And depending on what you think about their taijutsu, then that is pretty impressive. The problem with that is that his main... I have to go back and look at this. I'm not really comfortable saying much. I think in base, Momoshiki's strength comes from like him absorbing ninjutsu and firing them back. He doesn't seem to be all that durable on his own. So I don't think 8th Gate guy especially, but probably even 7th Gate guy probably would like box base Momo around. I don't have a problem with that. But once he fuses, he is able to take on Naruto and Sasuke both at the same time and pressure them both, including with their taijutsu. And I don't know, I think saying that 7th Gate guy is on par with like Boruto era Naruto and Sasuke, like pound for pound, that's pretty spicy, and I would probably want to research it a bit more. Sorry, I said I think everything should just do the medieval fantasy approach. This magic is pure light. How does that work? Magic, fuck you. You're here for shenanigans and storytelling, not physics. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I do think it is fun to build out a magic system though, like to specify rules and stuff. I think that's okay, and if you can construct an actual like credible um universe for your characters to play in, like all the better, right? But you don't have to. You can kind of pick and choose how you want to use that sort of thing. It's a technique like any other. Roman says, when has Damon reflected the intent without touching someone with his palm? People said he did, but I don't remember. I thought he did it. I don't remember what chapter this is in, but I have an image in my head of like Boruto sitting on the couch and Damon sitting on the other side of the couch, or like Kawaki sitting on the couch and Damon sitting on the other side of the couch. And Kawaki looks at Damon and is like, maybe I'll just try this. And he like focuses on him and imagines punching him. And then his head just like flies back. And then Damon looks at him and he's like, are you fucking stupid or what? Did you not hear what I just told you? I'll have to see if I can find that. I don't remember where it is. Also, it is kind of funny to me that the fucking Hokage over here in this critical moment is like dashing down the hall and is like punching in a code. Like, why does this character who is fashioned the speed of light and is multiversal running down the hallway and putting in a code? Is he stupid? Like, does he not have a way to get around a fucking door? Is he dumb? Is he an idiot? Is he broken? Is he okay? Does he need a hug? And the answer, of course, is shut up. It's a story, right? Like, they needed to put Naruto in a situation where there was some kind of critical shit going on, and maybe oh, you said he was touching Ada. That might be the case. Yeah. You're probably right about that. Yep. So like, maybe they just needed to do this to build up some tension. Anyway. So here's Kawaki again, like should be the speed of light, but Kawaki is approaching them, but they're able to just kind of like ignore him, or sorry, not ignore him, but like he should be the speed of light, but they're able to continue having a conversation while he's approaching. So like, is he really the speed of light? Here's Ada, she takes off and starts flying away. Doesn't create like a massive shockwave, doesn't really bother any of the local people who are just civilians, like the non-ninja people. Flies away, they can still track her and they can still see her. She doesn't just like disappear. Okay, and then she kind of shows up a little while later. Here's another example. Characters chasing each other while more events and conversations happen, but I don't remember exactly what the context was here. So I'll leave it alone. I think this is going back to looking for Boruto before. Okay, so near the stone phases, 3 clicks west, so that's 3 kilometers. This is Sasuke, right? And he's talking about Boruto being 3 kilometers away. This is Boruto era Sasuke, who should be the speed of light. So what the fuck? Like, why can't he just be there? Can he not? Like, again, is he stupid? Is he dumb? Is he an idiot? Like, he's only 3 kilometers away and he can move at the speed of light, right? So why doesn't he just, like, go there? Why doesn't he just exist there? They know exactly where Boruto is. They know where his chakra is. He should just be there in, like, the blink of an eye. In less time that it takes him to inhale. A fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second. He can't do it. What an asshole. Okay. So, here's some more examples. This is when data explodes. I've heard people say that like explosions like this are Mach 20, Mach 25, maybe even Mach 50. I haven't calculated it. I don't really care. But given that that's the case, these characters here, Guy and Lee, and I've heard people say Sakura, but Kakashi for sure, and Naruto, I've heard people describe them all as being the speed of light. If 1010's relative at all, she should be as well. Chio, if not, she might need to be carried, but that's fine. Chio, I've heard her described as being the speed of light because she's capable of like fighting with other people during the war as an Edo Tensei, so she should be the speed of light here. I don't agree with that, of course, but I've heard the arguments being made. But here is just an explosion, right? This explosion is not going at the speed of light. The light coming off the explosion is, but the explosion itself isn't. So if these characters are the speed of light, and this is only like Mach 50, they should just be able to like walk away from it. Like literally, just like, turn around and walk away. So what if they have to pick up 1010 and Chio? They should be able to just go the other way, And Neji doesn't think they're going to be able to make it, right? So they're carrying Gaara. Naruto's like not, looks like he's getting outpaced by it, right? They're not sure they're going to make it. They're acting defensively. They think they're going to get hit. Guy is surprised at all that. And what Kakashi does is he teleports him to another place. He uses his Kamui. So even fucking Kakashi, the light speed guy who does all these light speed feats and goes up against light speed Itachi, doesn't think he can like get people away at the speed of light. And this explosion, Data is C0, by the way, like his biggest like self-destructive explosion. That one is very, 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 very clearly established to be his biggest explosion, and he tells us very clearly and very explicitly that that explosion has a radius of 10 kilometers. So if Kakashi can move at the speed of light, he should be able to move 50 kilometers away and just like put each of these people there and come back and put them there. And if he even has to like ferry them one by one all the way there, all the way back, over and over and over again, like 8 times, he should be able to do that like 1,000 times over before the explosion hits him. He shouldn't need to do this Kamui shit at all. Right? Which he already should know from experience, especially if he's fatigued, that using Mangekyo Jutsu will like put him in the hospital. It's extremely risky. But he does it rather than just like move. Just move at a speed that should be casually obtainable to him as of a long ass time ago. Anyway, let me check chat real quick. Let's see. Saria says, "Oh yeah, I agree. An author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the author or the reader understands said magic." Oh my god. Yeah, I was just talking about Brandon Sanderson. I have a couple friends of mine who have been reading through his stuff, and I guess listen to a writing podcast where he shows up sometimes and gives writing advice. I need to find out the name of the podcast. I meant to share it with you. But yeah, I need to get into his work. I recently started listening to an audiobook by, is it Patrick Rothfuss? And it's really good, and so I'm probably going to go back and read his books as well. But then Sanderson needs to be on the list as well for sure. Ryoman asks, Urashiki versus Jiraiya. Jiraiya mocks dominance and pats on the shoulder to assert dominance. Yeah, so the thing about Urashiki is that I think, well, like, granted, he was nerfed, but there was a nerfed Sasuke, a Boruto-era Sasuke nerfed, plus Naruto, plus Boruto, plus Jiraiya, all fought against him, and he was able to bother them for quite some time. Granted, he was holding back on Naruto, and like he wanted to get the chakra out of him and stuff like that. There's like weird variables, and Sasuke only got his power back towards the end of the fight. But there are feats for Urashiki that you can look for. I think Urashiki might have also been like partially weakened from creating the portal or like going back in time. I forget the details of that whole shenanigan. But at the end of the day, like, I am pretty sure in the anime he fights Gaara and Kankuro and is, like, again, able to do okay, but it's not like a sweep and he loses. And then he goes back in time, and he, specifically when he goes back in time, I remember him slinking away and avoiding fighting Naruto in the present, right? Like, that's why he goes back in the past. He doesn't think he can beat up Naruto in the future safely, so he goes to the past to steal Kurama from him as a kid or something like that. But the Jiraiya that he goes up against doesn't enter Sage Mode, doesn't use those techniques, doesn't use Ma and Pa, like, doesn't summon Gamma Bunta, Gamma Ken, or anything like that. So, like, all those characters were fighting. It's sort of similar to, like, the Sanin clash in part 1, where, like, all of the characters were various forms of fucked up, and nobody was really fighting at their max. And so, I don't think Urashiki's very impressive based on his showings there. I know people like to say that Urashiki clowned on Toneri, and therefore, you know, Toneri was the strongest opponent that Naruto ever fought or whatever based on that promotional statement. But here's the thing. When Toneri fought against Naruto, even if we accept that to be the case, like, Toneri himself had the Tenseigan in his eyes, and he also had access to that big-ass Tenseigan sphere and that golem. And he didn't have any of those things when Urashiki showed up. So I have to go double check to see if he even had eyes at all at that point. But I'm pretty sure that he was like massively nerfed compared to when he fought Naruto. I think that Tenseigan sphere that was made out of all the like Byakugan got like distorted or whatever, or like got not distorted, like destroyed. So I don't really think he has any like good feats at that level. I'll have to go back and see. But basically, Sage Jiraiya versus Urashiki, I think if you're just like, well, Urashiki is an Otsutsuki, and so he's just like a higher tier or something like that, then he has a chance. But I mean, like, realistically, he doesn't have amazing showings, and Sage Jiraiya just, you know, has a variety of different jutsu. I think if Urashiki can get his like his hook into Jiraiya and steal his chakra, that could be a win con. But again, if Jiraiya has like Sage mode activated and Urashiki absorbs too much Sage energy, then that could fuck him up and turn him into a frog. So it would actually be a really interesting fight. I don't think there's a clear winner, but I definitely like. I feel like Urashiki's base power just as an Otsutsuki, like he gets a free glaze. But at the same time, when I actually think about what he can do, I'm leaning towards Jiraiya, honestly. Sage Jiraiya, not base, but yeah. Um, Saria says, I just mean your world doesn't have to adhere to our world. Yeah, yeah, exactly. As long as there's logical consistency to your own world, don't break your own rules and all that. LOL. Yes, absolutely, I agree. Oh, hey, Dr. Pest, how's it going? Good to see you. Dr. Pest says, oh my god, is that the face of Datara despite being a clone? Yeah, that it's nightmare fuel. This is secretly a Halloween episode. I'm going through like the spookiest. I think somebody actually just did a video of that. Was it TG who did a video on fucking the spookiest jutsu in Naruto, which is actually a really fun idea for a Naruto video. But yeah, I hope you've been doing well. It's good to see you. Saria says, I listened to the podcast. Oh, okay, you did. Good. It honestly made my appreciation for Zelda's world building and magic system, Kingdom Hearts as well, so much more. And I already thought very highly of their writing. That's awesome. I really need to add this to my watch/read list, or listen list, rather. Base Toner has any good scaling? Not. Oh, Toneri himself. I don't think so, but it's hard to say because, well, like, okay, so in base on Earth, he did mess up Naruto, and that version of Naruto was clearly like a, you know, didn't have, he wasn't in like Sage's Six Paths mode or whatever, I don't think, but yeah. So like, base Toneri did clash with Naruto and did like send him through the surface of the moon, right? Like they clashed with Rasengan versus Toneri's thing, and this is before Hinata had been brought up, and so I think you could the like Tenseigan weren't fully mature yet, so base Toneri should probably be somewhat relative to Naruto. But it's weird because I don't know like how much he was holding back and how much Naruto was holding back to not want to hurt Hinata either. So it's weird. But I mean like putting him somewhere along the level of like, you know, the end game characters anyway. Kind of makes sense to me. It's just they don't pull out all the stops in that fight, so it's kind of hard to say. The same thing with Toneri like later when Urashiki shows up. Like they don't really do much. They clash very briefly, and then he gets put in that like time freezing prison thing, whatever that jutsu is. And can Edo Nagato beat Warrock? Yeah. Oh well. The thing is, if it's Kakashi with DMS, that becomes a problem because I don't think any of Pain's like basic jutsu, like Nagato's basic jutsu, are like the Chibaku Tensei or Shinra Tensei. Like I don't think like Kakashi's gonna give a shit about that. And I think stuff like the Kamui Shuriken, I don't think Nagato himself has an answer to that. The problem is that Kakashi doesn't have a ceiling jutsu that I'm aware of. He probably knows something based on his like big ass repertoire, but I don't know. What I would say is this: like DMS Kakashi would probably just like snipe his limbs off with the Kamui Shuriken. I don't think that Nagato has a response to that. And then if we assume that Kakashi has some kind of basic ceiling jutsu, like he just has a capsule from Dragon Ball that has a ceiling jutsu in it, and he just gets one free ceiling jutsu, I think he'd be able to like fuck up Edo Nagato to the point where he was regenerating for a while, and he could use that window to seal him. I just don't see what Nagato is really doing against that like flying around Kakashi with the wings and the perfect Susanoo and stuff like that. War Arc Kakashi, like the one who was fighting alongside Guy and Naruto and B with the Edo Jinchuriki. No way. I don't think so. Remember Edo Nagato, especially with the lack of ceiling jutsu, but Edo Nagato was going up against KCM1 Naruto and B at the same time, and from my reading, had them both dead to rights, and had quote unquote had to get saved. They had to get saved by Itachi. There's more nuance to it than that, but yeah, like I don't know. I think there's an argument that Edo, like without the Totsuka blade, like they would have been in a lot of trouble. But so I don't think Kakashi can really do anything. The Kamui is gonna help, but it's not gonna be enough, you know. So uh, one MS Makashi, yeah. In that case, I don't think so. I'd be curious to hear your take, but no. Keep in mind though that I'm a Pain Glazer. Like I think that Pain is just unfortunately for people arguing against him in that matchup. Like Pain has been written as extremely fucking broken, and it's almost like kind of not fun in a way because he can summon the literal king of the underworld to judge your soul and rip your soul out if you're telling a lie. Which good luck fitting that into the like magic system, like a hard magic system, right? He can touch your head and paralyze you and read every single memory that you have in a matter of seconds and then rip your soul out. So there's that. He can touch you and absorb all of your like energy with the Predapath, right? He has one path that has a dog that can't be killed and that can infinitely like respawns when you attack it or like summons or whatever. Now obviously I have like qualifiers to all those things. I don't think we have to accept them at face value, but at face value, like Pain is just fucking broken, and that's just a fraction of it. I'm gonna stop there, but like, yeah, like, yeah, you're right. Nagato destroys him. There's nothing he can do. Um, so I gotta catch up on chat. Sorry, it says turning Urashiki into an alien frog. Yeah, exactly. I would love to see that happen. Dr. Pest says this is off topic, but for me, the Tenchi Bridge arc is very mid and totally skippable because outside of the introduction of Yamato and Sai, who do nothing afterwards, there's nothing interesting. Yeah, I will say in Sai's defense, I do think that the resolution that we get with him and his brother during the war and the implications of like the summoning jutsu or the Edo Tensei being breakable with like emotional crits, I think that's very interesting. I will also say though that it kind of gets undercut by the fact that Sasori gets like kind of Takano Jutsu by fucking Kanguro and has like a peaceful ending and just lets his soul flit off peacefully to paradise or the Pure Land. And so that kind of like takes a little bit of the punch out of the emotional resolution that comes with Sai and his brother later. It's like they should just cut all that shit out. Like, I don't know. I like Sasori having a redemption, but I feel like it just like you only get like one of those, and then every other one is less impactful, I guess. So I don't know. That whole arc is just kind of weird too. Like especially for discussing like Naruto geography and Lightspeed stuff because they have you know, Team Yamato have 5 days to get to the Tenchi Bridge from the Land of Fire, and they stop and like camp out in that like little ryokan that if that's the right term for it that Yamato makes, and then they stop in this other like hotel and like we see Sakura sleeping on a comfy pillow and they're like it's a really weird arc where it feels like the tension is undercut by their little vacation that they're taking. And I do like the reunion with Sasuke. I think that that's pretty like dramatically satisfying and all that, and helps build up tension for Naruto and Sasuke's relationship later on. But overall, it's not like great. No, it's weird. Let's see. Did the Totsuka Blade speed blitz Nagato and Orochimaru? I don't think so. But it depends on how you define speed blitz. So my understanding of that term means that like for an attack to count as a speed blitz, it must have been not possible for the victim to perceive or react to the attack. So like if I'm paralyzed and somebody attacks me and I see the attack coming but I just can't move, right? That's not a speed blitz because normally I would be able to move. And conversely, if my eyes are closed and somebody hits me and I would have been able to move out of the way but I just couldn't see it, then that's not a speed blitz either. It has to be something like the common example that they use on like VSB and whatnot is a bullet for a normal human. You know, if somebody like shoots you with a gun, you're not in all likelihood going to be able to see the bullet and you're not going to have time to react to it. It's just going to hit you, right? Yes, it's travel time. It's not instantaneous, of course, but you're still not going to be able to do anything. So the thing with Nagato is that when he gets hit with the Totsuka blade, he's like in all of this smoke and rubble and debris. And we know that the like I can explain why, but like the Rinnegan has trouble seeing through smoke. It's really weird. So I don't think he sees the Totsuka blade coming. He's also being controlled by Obito at the time, Kabuto at the time. His personality is suppressed, so his normal perceptual abilities are not like where they normally would be. I don't think so. No, it's not really a speed blitz. And the same thing with Orochimaru. If I remember correctly, he has his head back and he's like laughing and being an asshole. So like when he gets stabbed by fucking what's his name, by Itachi, it's because he's just messing around. He's like not paying attention. So I think that wouldn't technically count as a speed blitz, although he gets messed up by it, that's for sure. Nagato destroys Kakashi. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Dr. Pest says at Saria, I would say that if it weren't for the fact that Hashirama as a character and not being mentioned appears until chapter 618 or 82 chapters after finishing the manga. Doesn't Hashirama... Wait, no, Hashirama appears during the Orochimaru fight, right? Hashirama actually has very little screen time. Oh, you mean like a more of an in-character version of Hashirama? Because he's like, he doesn't actually spend much time like on panel with people. Like actually, we don't really get to see his character fleshed out because he's just on for a little while and then he immediately has his personality suppressed by Orochimaru. We don't get to see that like jovial, like happy-go-lucky side of him when he first appears in the war arc. That would make sense. Hey, Walkie Talkie, how's it going? Thank you so much for stopping by. I've been trying to catch you guys' streams. They're always like super funny to listen to. The the other day, when was it Cam that was on, and you were like those interrogation techniques. But Cam, do you know what the definition of walking actually is? It's when you put your left foot in front of your right foot, and then it was so great. Hope you guys are doing well. It's always a good time listening. And oh yeah, the jars. Yeah, we're just talking about the Ember Purification Jar and Lightspeed stuff. These past few weeks, I've mostly been talking about Lightspeed scaling. In case I haven't made it painfully clear, I don't really agree with Lightspeed scaling in Naruto in general. So I've kind of been trying to go through the arguments and explain why. But yeah. Let's see, Walkie Talkie Podcast versus Meow Ba mocks and taunts. I love that the mock and taunt is becoming like a refrain for like rather than like dunking on or bodying or something. Mocking and taunting is better. I haven't actually, I don't think I've checked out Meow Ba, but would you recommend them? I'll be happy to check them out. An example of eyes being closed would be when Guy and Lee close their eyes in the Gaara fight. Oh yeah, isn't there a moment where like Guy is like praying and closing his eyes or something, and then Kakashi, and then while that happens is when Gaara swaps himself out for his sand clone, and Guy's like, when the fuck did that happen? And Kakashi said, it's when you were fucking praying and you had your eyes closed. Maybe pay attention next time. Technically Hashirama appears in chapter 1 Naruto, but yeah, okay. The fucking little smirk. Yeah, he does. I think Hagoromo also, this is something that like I forget who it was in a debate I once heard say that like Itachi was the most OP character that was ever mentioned in the series, because he's mentioned to have this feat or whatever in the third data book, and in the third data book like Hagoromo is there, and so is Hashirama and Madara, and I'm like, that might be a little bit of a stretch. Walkie Talkie says, oh yeah, well I'm trying to catch your streams. I guess we'll just have to cross the streams, so to speak. I've been meaning to, yeah, we should like do a VC or something, or I should come on if you want to talk about something. I'm always happy to complain about multiversal Naruto. I'm always happy to complain about Lightspeed Naruto, and to explain in great detail why Kakuzu would never beat Pain under any circumstances. So if you think that would be helpful at all, I'm more than happy to contribute. So let me know. Hashirama is just lucky Yamato wasn't around in part 1. He would have put him in his place. Hashirama cells have nothing on Yamato's house. Oh yeah, that was also like, I like parts of the war quite a bit, but the like Uchiha versus Hashirama cell, like versus reincarnates being in a big battle royale. It's like, how many more times are we gonna use this one person's DNA to like fuel the different sides of this war? It's like, come on, like let other people have a moment in the spotlight. It's kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to get in a whole rant about like Sakura during the war. We talked about that on Thursday actually. But Yeah, there might have been opportunities for other things to happen. I'll just leave it at that. Real Man says, Walkie Talkie says craziest things that jar never purify even a single drop of amber. It just sealed people. I know, right? Like you thought. I figured, especially since they introduced like dinosaurs and shit in the Sasuke Retsuden, that at least we would get like some Jurassic Park, like mosquito in a jar of amber, something. They were setting that up, and they just didn't get a chance to pay it off. But no, we got to spend more time with Kinkaku and Ginkaku. That was like, everybody's favorite. Oh well, maybe Ikemoto will remember the unfinished promises and fulfill them at the end of the day. Um, Ryoman says, "I'll send you a Meow Ba on DM." Okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. You dressed up to debate Meow Ba. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are still planning on doing it, but I would be curious just to know what the debate with Jay the Great was, or if you have any other debates upcoming. You seem like some of the folks that would actually be able to like conduct a debate without raging and like having other people rage at you. Like I was listening. What's the one I was listening? Oh, okay. Well, can I ask you? I was you were talking to somebody recently, and I forget. I'm sorry, I forget the name of the video, but it was like something heated debate, and it came out a few days ago. And I need to know, but also kind of don't want to ask because I like the mystery, to what extent you were trolling that guy in that debate, because that was really funny if it was satire. But if not, I'm like, oh God, what am I getting myself into over here? But I am genuinely excited if you guys wind up debating Jay or anybody else. We need more people who are like actually friendly to be engaging in debates as opposed to like the kind of rampant toxicity that happens sometimes. So yeah, let's see. Dr. Pest says, "Oh right, he appears when Orochimaru revives him in the part one. What a memory, like a goldfish I have." That's no problem. Nobody's a more relevant character now without needing his cells like 618. Yeah, and to your point, like he doesn't really get the full fledged personality reveal, so to speak, until later. Like he's much less kind of formal and morose and stuff when he shows up in front of the others. I think maybe Kishimoto was still kind of figuring out where he wanted to go with his character overall, and made him a much more like wholesome kind of guy than we see him initially. And then like kind of transferred, I think, some of the dourness onto Hashirama. So I like the sort of good cop bad cop routine the two of them have going on. Walkie Talkie says currently at work, otherwise I would now. Yeah, no worries, man. My schedule is a little weird, but I try to stream on Thursdays and Sunday nights. I'm pretty consistent with that. And then I check Discord like usually once a day. I don't have it on my phone or anything because if otherwise I would just be like constantly on there because I get like addicted to chatting and stuff. So I have limits with that, but I try to check like once a day or once every other day. So I'll try to see if our like paths intersect sometime in the near future. But yeah, hope work is going well. It's pretty well. I don't know if you're in the same time as me, but I hope you're not like still at work at like 9 p.m. It's kind of rough. I've had to work late nights and overnights in the past, and it's, I don't know. Some people thrive with that. I personally didn't do very well. So hope you're doing okay with all that. Ryoman says Meowba agrees with me that Eren beats Gojo. Well, I mean, like I guess it depends on what version of Eren, but do you mean just like in his Attack Titan form, or do you mean like the founding Titan, giant, towering monster thing? But okay, let me see if I can wrap this up. I'm gonna go back to the scans real quick. Again, these are still pretty disorganized, and just kind of wanted to see what else I could find here. I do really like this. I kind of wonder. I haven't really heard many people talk about this in terms of a light speed feat, but he does manage to get to Naruto before Naruto even realizes like what happened. Like the reaction comes after Sasuke is completely moved, and he moves so fast that we don't even see like any real disturbance in the area behind him. Like there's no like sonic boom or anything like that. So this is another one of those feats where it's like, yeah, sometimes the ninja in this universe probably do just have like crazy movement speed hacks. And Yamato does react and say he's fast, but really, it's really hard to quantify this, and I almost kind of think that maybe we shouldn't. Or like, I personally don't feel like super invested in trying to figure out numerically how fast this is, because to me, this is more about like we've been with Naruto. We know he's been training. We know he's been working hard with Jiraiya. He's going on missions. He's obviously progressed. He's able to work with Sakura to get the bells. So Naruto has made a progression as a character, but Sasuke is fucking untouchable at this point. Like Sasuke was ahead of him and is still ahead of him, and that's what the point of this is, right? So, um, I don't think there was anything there that I needed. I think I already talked about this during the geography stream, so I won't hammer too much on this point. Just that, like, these characters are moving in 5 kilometer radii and searching relatively small areas. If any of these characters is actually capable of moving at the speed of light, searching within that radius should take a fraction of a second. So it seems very strange to me that a scouting party composed of at least 2 characters who should be the speed of light according to what has been quote unquote established in part 1 don't feel the need or are incapable of doing this. So again, this is not like a full debunk to speed of light or movement or anything like that, but it's weird. Again, it's like another instance of, okay, when are we actually going to see some motherfuckers move at the speed of light? When is that actually going to happen? It hasn't happened yet. And so he sends out these dogs, and again, like, it's interesting that the dog says, I think it's Pakkun talking, I'm not sure, but he says something like, our noses can detect danger faster. Okay, our voices reach farther than any comm unit. So these doggos are more effective at scouting a 5 kilometer radius than fucking Lightspeed ass Kakashi. I don't know. Something about that doesn't really fit for me with the overall Lightspeed thing. Here's another thing. Now, obviously, Sasuke is fatigued here. So you can counter this by saying, oh, he's fatigued or whatever. But this is Deidara's, like, C4, right? And, again, as long as we're willing to... Here's another face for your Dr. Pest. As long as we're willing to say that the explosion radius of the C0 is probably greater than this, based on Deidara saying it's his ultimate art and saying it has a 10 kilometer radius and like really emphasizing that point, then the radius of this attack should be less than 10 kilometers. And Deidara himself says, you're going to run, you think you can really escape from me and my C4 Karura. And he's saying that while Sasuke is running and Sasuke is trying to get away, right? Yeah, the blessed will cover 10 kilometer radius, not even you can escape it, right? So he's trying to get away from this, and he doesn't, like, fully outrun it, right? Like, rather than completely outrunning the cloud, he instead shoots lightning or runs lightning through his own body, which should give him some amount of damage in all likelihood. Maybe not if he grounds himself, but I don't know. Seems like it would potentially hurt him at least. It's consuming more chakra. Instead of just running away from it, like, it would take him a fraction of a second to just run over to that hill, like literally like 100th of a second or less, to go over to that hill away from the blast radius and just like chill for a second. But he doesn't. So again, is he really the speed of light? It doesn't seem like it to me. It's also kind of weird for, like, the Akatsuki are some of the strongest characters in the series up to this point, and they include people like Itachi, who should be the speed of light according to this meta, so to speak. So why does Deidara think that he's like, not even Sasuke can escape it, right? You could argue again, Sasuke's fatigued. Maybe that's what he means. But this whole, like, exchange between Deidara has been like, I'm so fucking pissed at you, Sasuke, for being so superior to me that I can't believe that that I'm going to sacrifice myself in order to demonstrate my superiority. But I don't think that even you, who is that superior to me, can get out of this blast radius. So that to me suggests that Deidara probably doesn't think he himself can get out of the blast radius of 10 kilometers. So he can't move faster than 10 kilometers in whatever the explosion speed is, like Mach 50, Mach 100, whatever it is. Even if it was like the speed of lightning, which I don't think it is, that he still can't run faster than that. Which means that now we have Akatsuki tier members, like characters, who are like incapable of moving away from this. Does that really make sense, or maybe do they not have the speed of light? I'm skipping over that because I hate it, and that too. This is basically just saying, like, again, here's Karin and Jugo. Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. So Karin and Jugo give like the scraps of Sasuke's scent to birds, and the birds fly around, and like it takes them a while to split up and catch up with the birds. So does that mean the birds are the speed of light, or what? Same thing? Also, like we know that they can't be more than like 20 or 30 kilometers at most from any given point that's happening in this arc of the story, given how fucking big that explosion was and everything. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. This is at a different part of the story. This jumps ahead quite a bit. Yeah, never mind. I'll just leave that out. I think that's pretty much it. You know, at this point, I'm just kind of repeating myself. There are a bunch of characters that travel to different places. They need to go super, super fast. They should only be traveling sometimes dozens of kilometers, maybe hundreds of kilometers, maybe hundreds of kilometers. And yet, they, even when they're traveling like super critically, they don't get there in fractions of seconds. They get there over the courses of minutes, maybe hours. Um, and if that's the case, you like any one of those individual instances, you could look at and be like, oh well, in this particular case, these characters had a specific reason why they weren't moving at full speed. But if you give that explanation for all of these different things, then all you're left with at the end of the day is a big fat goose egg, right? Like you just have all of these instances where characters didn't move at the speed of light. And what does that tell you? That they're not moving at the speed of light. Even if they can hypothetically, maybe potentially, they're still not doing it, so what does it matter? So that's basically it. Let me switch back to the manga window. I think that's, you know, given that we're almost 3.5 hours in now, I don't think I'm going to start on the key video for right now. I think I'll save that for next time. But that being said, you know, this has been a fun talk. And I want to just go back here for 1 second in case I missed anything, but I don't think so. Okay, this is what's called 674. Hello. Alright, this is OBS is giving me trouble. 1 second. Yes? Yes, okay, good. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let me catch up on chat real quick, see how you guys are doing. Dr. Fest is incredulous. Dr. Strangle says when Ood gets sarcastic with that tone he delivers with seemingly troll arguments, it's hard to tell with him. Gives the same vibe of a rage comment. Yeah, exactly. Problem, officer? Do you have a problem with this scaling? It's pretty funny. Dr. Pest says Sasuke Hebi was very fast. Also, when he does a blitz to Deidara, yeah, he definitely has some impressive speed feats. I've heard some people say they think Hebi is stronger than Taka. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I think I get where they're coming from. Zarya says he's fast. Yamato, after seeing 80-year-old Hiruzen move across the battlefield of the war arc. True. The whole like he's fast refrain gets thrown out a lot. Like Choji also says this to fucking Kakuzu. So Choji says to Kakuzu he's fast, or of Kakuzu he's fast. Yamato says to Sasuke he's fast. So fucking Sasuke is relative to Kakuzu and vice versa. There we go. There's some scaling for you. Dr. Strangle says, haven't we literally seen radio communications in OG Naruto? Yeah, absolutely. They do have like headset radios, and I think in that panel, fucking Kakashi said something about like make sure to, yeah, like the doggo said like our voices carry further than radios, right? So like they do have radios and they do still use them. See if I can find it. Yeah, our voices reach farther than any comm unit. The comm unit thing they're referring to is the headset radios. And I think even like in chapter 3 or something when Naruto is like going in, let's just look this up for fun. This would be cute. When Naruto's going on that mission to like get the cat, right? Aren't they communicating? In Boruto they are. Let's see. Next one, maybe? Oh, yeah, here we go. Right, so this is chapter 9. And here, like, Kakashi's using a radio transmitter to talk to Naruto, and he's got one on too. So, yep. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Pass, you beat me to it. Yes, there was when Zabuza and Haku attacked the bridge and they had a radio calling Gato with Gato calling them. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Technology in the Naruto manga is a very strange thing to explain, being a feudal world but at the same time close to the 2000s, which is confusing. Yeah, and they had like, I forget where it is, but somewhere in the Forest of Death, right when Gara shows up. Like I'm pretty sure they have this panel where they show him through like a video camera feed, like a CCTV or something. Um, you can find that. Oh, hey, Loha, how's it going? Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope that you are having a good weekend. I'm sorry, I feel like you just stopped by and I'm about to wrap up the stream, but I do appreciate you saying hi. Um, Loa says wankers will say birds have. Oh my fucking god! Yeah, birds have chakra, so they must be faster than IRL birds. I mean, you say that, I'm assuming partially joking, but I think Sage of Thick Calves said something like that in his video. To give him credit, not to try to strawman him or anything, but like in his video on Naruto geography, I think he said that like birds and horses, or I think he said horses specifically, right? Like he was using horse scaling, and he was like, well, we see other animals in Naruto, like ninja dogs and stuff like that, that can use chakra. So if there are horses in Naruto, which there are, then those horses could potentially be chakra amped horses and move faster than normal horses. And this was part of horse. This was part of a series of arguments of like, well, there's a statement that ninja can move faster than horses, and let's use the speed of a real world galloping horse as a baseline, but actually that could probably be a low ball because Naruto horses could be like amped up on chakra and go even faster, something like that. And then I don't think he said anything about the birds specifically. I think one of the counters that I had in a video response that I did, like pseudo video response, was that I pointed out that there is a bird messenger that travels from Redaku, which is a town that's like way up high in the land of Earth, and basically travels all the way from there to Konoha, and it takes the bird 2 days to do that. And the argument that I used was like, I was trying to figure out how far away these places were, and I said it probably is not more than 3,000 miles away, because if we look at real world birds, like some of the best long distance flyers are geese, and under like perfect conditions, geese flying together in formation while migrating can get like 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers or miles a day, whatever it was. And therefore I was like, okay, so let's highball it. Let's say it's 1,500. Let's say that this hawk could actually fly as straight in 2 days as a goose under ideal migratory conditions. And then I would say a highball for the distance between Redaku and Konoha would be 3,000 miles. But of course you could just turn around and say, but what if the bird has can go ultra mega turbo lightspeed mode because the bird has chakra? And like, yeah, what if the bird was a jet? Like, I don't what do you want from me? So Loha said I lurked earlier so I didn't miss everything. Oh, okay, cool, gotcha. That's good. So yeah, I'm just trying to look for this CCTV thing. I don't think it's even really necessary for any arguments or whatever, but one of the things I really liked about early Naruto is that there was an attempt to kind of, yeah, I think it's over here. This is chapter 57. There's an attempt to kind of merge magic with technology, so to speak. So it looks like they're these almost like jumbo ass VCRs, and they're plugged into these like kind of snaky thick cables. And then there's these large ass TVs. I have no idea. And then yeah, so they're like watching Gar on the CCTV, like they recorded him coming in. So I guess there's another scan, I'm not going to be able to find it, but like where they're communicating, like I think people in Konoha are like communicating with some people in the Sand Village or something like that. And when they do so, you see like these like cylinders that almost look kind of like scrolls, and the scroll cylinders are immersed in this weird like viscous watery substance, but then they're plugged into actual technology, so it's like this weird hybrid of magic and tech. And I really like that, but they didn't really elaborate on it all that much. Wow, this arc is longer than I thought. let me just see. So now they're in the building. We might see it, what I'm talking about. And there's one other thing too. There's like that torture interrogation device or whatever that Ibiki used. You see. Of course, Hiruzen as well has his like stupid little magic ball thing in chapter 1. But let me check one thing. I think it's in chapter 419. If it's not there, then I'm gonna just wrap it up. Okay. Yeah. So this is when they start attacking the village. Actually, it might be in 418. Let's see. This is the pain arc. Start attacking. Yeah. So this little thing over here, right? It's like, I guess it doesn't look as techy as I thought, but there's a metallic contraption that is then connected to this other like metallic almost console that's fed into it with like all these different wires and stuff, or cables, tubes, pipes, whatever you're gonna call them. And it kind of seems like it's a connection. It's like a fusion again between magic and technology, which is kind of cool. They're using, and I say magic. The magic system in Naruto is obviously not like magic in Harry Potter, right? It's quote unquote big ass air quotes magic. But just for a lack of better terms, like the magic technology intersection is really cool. With that being said, if I start talking about fucking pain, I'm going to be here all night. So I think I'm going to take off. I thank you very, very much for coming with me on this light speed journey at the speed of light through the universe made out of light speed light. And so next week we have a couple of different options. One is we can talk about we can do the debate breakdown with Noodles versus Apollo and go over the arguments again and talk. We'll specifically talk about the debate tactics and have it be like a debate review as opposed to a like argument analysis, if that makes sense. Like just talking about the tactics as opposed to the in manga stuff and whether or not it's accurate, like a fact checking thing. We could talk more about Lightspeed. We can go over one of Key's videos, or we could talk about Key's multiversal video and transition into a discussion of Kaguya. I'll probably post a poll on like Friday night and ask people what they think. Of course, if you have any suggestions, feel free to hit me up in the comments or in the Discord. Also, feel free to post anything in the vid recommendations channel in the Discord if there's anything you want me to react to. I've been getting like a lot of really great recommendations from people. I really appreciate it, so keep those coming. No pressure, of course. I'm just happy to review it.